Hi, everybody from beautiful New Mexico. Uh-oh, where'd my arm go? There we go. I hope everybody's having a wonderful weekend. We're going to have some fun tonight. We've got a special guest. This has been in kind of the works for maybe a month or so. Brandon, you guys know he's normally hanging out and chat with you. And I think it was back in December or late November, he mentioned getting into scuba diving and a business. So we've got him. He's in the basement right now. And so about 15 minutes past the hour, we're going to bring him up and we're going to hear all about it. And you guys will get the chance to ask him questions and we're just going to have a good time and hang out. Afterwards, once we're done talking to Brandon, I will probably drop him down, kick him out, whatever you want to say, and nothing mean. But I will take a chance to talk about Venezuela a little bit. If you want to stay for that, you can. If you don't, you don't have to by any means. I will try not to be political as much as I can. But it's an interesting thing going on. I follow a lot of that stuff, and I've actually been following what's going on in Venezuela for a while. I kind of keep my mouth shut on it, but it's interesting, and I don't know. The jury's still out, in my opinion, on what it all means. We'll see. I'll tell you all about it as much, and if enough of you guys stay, I'll tell you all about it in detail. And if you guys don't stay, then I won't. I'll have to make it short. But let's do some hellos. Let's. Apparently, there were like 100 of you. I don't know if I believe this, but Kobe came in and said he was 92nd in the house. Floss was first in the house. Now we posted this early so everybody knew about it, and gave you that chance. Give me 1 second. I'm going to adjust this just because you guys obviously know there's a green screen. There's a picture from when I was in New Mexico. You guys might recognize it. I think I did a live stream from there. Um, but the blur around my head is driving me a little bit nuts. So you guys know I was making a green screen. Here it is. It's all painted. It's there. I've been doing some testing with videos and all of that. I don't know if we'll talk about that today or not, or we'll see. Anyways, first in the house that I saw is Floss. Gold medal for Floss. Now, Kobe was second, but he's technically 92nd, I guess, so he doesn't get a medal. So be it. Sorry, Kobe. And then third in the house, who gets the bronze, who maybe should get, well, he's the guest, so he gets the bronze, but shouldn't he get like a platinum or something special as well? Brandon, Scooby Snacks. You guys get to meet him tonight. I believe this is the first time he's ever done a live stream. Is it, Brandon? It is. It is. You guys can't see him, but I can. He shook his head. I thought so. I think I've already asked him and verified that. But the first time he's done a live stream, those are always the most exciting to me, especially somebody that's hung out in chat. And I think he's been following the channel for years now. I don't think it's 1 year. I think I was still on the road when Brandon was following me, and I was driving through Houston. I was nervous about driving through Houston. Actually out to Quartzsite when I met Paula. So I think back that far, Brandon has followed the channel, and I've never got to meet him in person. So this is awesome. I'm very excited for it. I'll try to keep my excitement down. We will wait till 15 minutes past 20 minutes, wherever we're at the time. He's saying it's party time. He looks cool and confident, which always means I don't know that some people come up nervous. He doesn't appear nervous at all, guys. So I think it's going to be a great show. So stick around. We got Ringo and Czar in the house. Kyle, how's it going? I am watching football scores up over here. I tend to do that now as we do these lives as we get towards the end of the season. Detroit and Chicago tied 16-16. Philly and Washington tied 17-17. I just want to know who we're going to be playing in the playoffs. Of course, we sucked last night, so I'm not in the best mood about football, but, I think the 49ers have kind of overachieved this year with the injuries anyways. So we'll see. I 2 minutes left in one game, 7 minutes left in the other. I don't think we're going to focus too much on it. We'll see. And Brandon says, see y'all in a bit. You will. Scrolling on down. Let's see who else we got in the house here. Here's Kobe actually coming in. We got Kobe in the house. Good to see you. I don't think he's not working, which is normally why he's limited in chat, I think, because he's doing his deliveries. Tonight, he's cleaning out the trailer. And boy, did he have some issues on the first of the year. I think he had 3 things go wrong with the trailer phone or that type of thing. But he texted me, he got it all together, which it would have taken me a month to deal with all of that. So very proud of you, Kobe. But yeah, he's been on the road before, so he knows that happens. It doesn't make it any less stressful when it does, because it's your home, and things go wrong, and they all go wrong at the same time, and you got plans. And I know the feeling So I'm glad he got it all sorted out. There is the exotic Canadian beauty, also known as my wife, Van Vita Travels. I just got to give her a kiss upstairs right before the show for my good luck. You guys don't get to see that. I'm sorry. And then we got Alan Schaefer in the house. How's it going, Alan? Good to have you here. Good evening, Nate and Paula, he says. And then I was gonna Lillian. Lillian, I was about to go on off on a tangent, and then I saw you were next. Congratulations, Lily. It's one of the great things when your night goes so terribly with football. You know somebody else's, and it's always nice. I've said this before, but congratulations to Lily and the Seahawks. They kicked our butts last night. I thought we played terrible. I think new injuries. I'll talk about that in a second. I think depending on injuries, if we play again, hopefully we don't have to see them in the playoffs. That would probably be a miracle, or we got kicked out early, which also wouldn't be good. It might be different the next time around. They played differently, but I think there's a big reason two people were missing, and that caused a lot of changes, especially in the offense. And if you watch the game, the offense sucked. You could either say Seahawks defense was incredible or the 49ers offense was terrible. I lean towards the latter, but it's probably a bit of both, right? My chat jumped. I got to scroll back. Where was I? There we go. Lily saying hi. She always says hi to all of us. I love that. Hi, Nate, Paula, Dallas, or Pippa Dallas. She even says all of Spinlana. Spinlana. I just call her Spin still, and all stuff. But she is a female, so we think. Paula will tell you that she is. I think she is too. Actually, what are you doing? The dogs are here. You probably couldn't see them. So real quick, I'll get back to the hellos, and then we'll get to to Brandon in a second. You guys see the green screen? You guys notice? Oh my goodness, what is going on here? I can fix that. 1 second. There we go. Does everybody recognize me now? I don't know if I don't hold it like this. I don't know if my voice actually comes out and you can hear me. If I just do this, there we go. Paula knew I was gonna shave, and I'd go on walks, and it's cold. She was like, I better, knowing he's gonna shave. I'm worried about his poor face, and so I got a little gift here. How I don't know if I'm adorable or what, but it'd be cool if I could use it independent of the hat, but the two go together. I don't think you can unbutton them, but fun all the same. I hope I'm not freaking everybody out. I think I told you guys I was going to do this. The whole theory when we were down in Mexico the last time on the cruise, and we were in Cozumel, and we were on this party boat. I call it a party boat because we had a party. But they take you out snorkeling, and they pointed out, yeah, really for the suction for your goggles to work correctly, and you got to be shaved. And so the mouthpiece doesn't really matter because, yeah, that's fine. But the goggles come down and go around your nose. But if you've got mustache, it doesn't suction so well. And of course, yeah, I've got to every once in a while kind of dump out the water. So we're going all the way to Fiji, although it shows thunderstorms every day right now in Fiji. So that might be an interesting trip. But we're going all the way to Fiji. It's both of our first times in the Southern Hemisphere. And of course, we're going to snorkel a lot because I'm obsessed. Paula may be a little less obsessed, but she loves it too. And we've got a little bit of new gear and neoprene socks and all this stuff. We're doing it right. We're going to fully enjoy it. So the beard had to go, even if I've got my face is going to freeze and I look weird. I know Paula pointed this out. She was like, not in a bad way per se, but I go from bearded up, and you guys have always known me as bearded up. This is how I've lived most of my life without the beard until I quit the FDIC and all of that. So I was willing to test a new, not less professional, but I always was clean shaven because I was worried about being professional in the banking industry and all of that. So you go from a full beard and all of that, and now I'm clean shaven and I've got glasses as I'm sitting up. I don't, as I work here, I can see my screens just fine. So all day while I'm working down here, when she doesn't see me, I don't wear the glasses. But the second I'm upstairs and we're watching TV or we're doing whatever, I need the glasses or my eyes start hurting, or I just don't actually see. I just listen, which is half the time what I do anyways. But yeah, she's like, you do realize your looks have dramatically changed in the last month. Not good or bad necessarily, but holy cow, I look at you. She looks over and it's like, Who is my husband now? Or is that my husband? Anyways, all right. Enough of that tangent. I'm sure we'll get off on plenty of those. Uh, yeah, Paula says, you know every creature in our house. That's all of them. She's got all 6 of us down. Aw, you're so sweet, Lily. We love you. Um, Lily was second. Okay. So Kobe, you're still 92nd. Lily was second. So when we actually posted, I think I posted it on Thursday just to make sure Brandon could get the link and everything and we could communicate. He could ask questions and all of that. So that's why I set it up a little early. Otherwise, typically I post, you guys probably know this as you jog for position for the medals that don't exist. Typically it's either maybe Sunday before noon or as we get later in the day, Saturday. Paula always had a theory. It's best to do it within 24 hours of the live for whatever analytics. I don't know. She watches or used to watch a lot of videos on how to optimize all that. So I'm kind of all right. If people say that, I'll just do it. I don't, we'll see. Um, Alan says he was 86. So Alan, you beat Kobe. Congratulations. Yes, the Seahawks are the number 1 seed. The interesting thing, got a few more minutes here, and I don't think I'm too far behind in chat. Although, real quick, I gotta say hi to Debbie. Hi, Debbie. She was the next comment, so I saw that. I was like, I gotta say hi. Um, so Seahawks are the number 1 seed. That's set. I'm watching the scores up here. I guess I don't know who's the second or third. For a second, I thought the Rams. The only one that really matters to me too much is whether the Rams win or lose, which I just assumed they would because it's them versus Arizona. You would assume they win. But right before the live, I saw they were losing by 4 points. And then now they're down, or now they're up by 17. So the 49ers are pretty much assured the 6th seed. So we will play the 3rd seed, whoever that ends up being, Chicago or Philly. Doesn't really matter to me either way. They're both kind of even. It's a game on the road. The only interesting thing would be is if the Packers, here's what I'm hoping for. I don't have high expectations at this point now that we got to go on the road. If we had all the games at home, maybe we could win a Super Bowl, even with the injuries. After losing the game last night, not necessarily partly because how the game went, but because for our team having that home field and for defense and all of that and running your offense with the crowd noise of being away makes such a big difference. So Seattle needed the number 1 seed, in my opinion, far less than San Francisco did. I think Seattle probably would have done mostly whatever they're going to do, whether they were the 1 seed or the 5th seed, I guess, as low as they would have gone. San Francisco, the 49ers, if they were the 1 seed, I'm not going to say they were going to win the Super Bowl by any means, but hey, I'm going to think they've got a chance. They've got a real chance. Now, my expectations are tempered. Can we win 1 game? I think we've got a shot. Do I hope that Green Bay, you guys already know, I kind of, outside of the 49ers, kind of cheer on the Packers a little bit. As a 7th seed, if they can win in the first round and the 49ers win in the first round, then Green Bay has to go to Seattle and we go to wherever. So I'm holding on hope. I think that's wishful thinking, especially with how we played. And who knows, if we go to Chicago, decent chance. I wouldn't say 50. I'd say we are less than 50% chance, but we've proven we can beat them. Philly, I have no idea. I suspect Philly would beat us if I had to do odds, but of course it would maybe a 40% chance. Who knows? Who knows? We'll have to see. And of course, one of the nice things, the silver lining, if you will, about the team sucking last night and not getting the 1st seed is the only game that we're going to be home and not in Fiji for is next weekend. So if I actually thought that, the 49ers were going to really do really good and I want to watch the games, well, I'm in Fiji anyways. So the nice thing is my attention is not torn. I have low expectations. If I get a chance to check a score, I will, but so be it. I don't think the 49ers will make it all the way to the Super Bowl. Although I didn't think they were going to end up with only 5 losses this season, how things were going on earlier either. Okay. Oh, shoot. Okay. Here's where I got to start. Nate, hurry up, catch up, because I also see a super chat, so I don't want to miss that. Let's do some. I'm going to scroll quickly now. You guys know how this goes. I got to say hi to Auntie Cindy. Nephew, what did you do to your beard? Nothing, Auntie. What do you mean? What do you mean, Auntie Cindy? I got my beard still. It's a little fluffier. And I don't have any white stuff in it from the dogs. No, it's first when we go to So when we go to Fiji, it's for snorkeling. So the goggles, so I don't have to go up and get the goggles or be looking through water. Well, you're always looking through water, but the seal works better. Well, also part of going to Fiji is so I don't burn when we get there. We do a little bit of tanning before we go on these vacations. So I did it early. So once I started tanning, I've gone once. You're tanning because you don't want to keep the beard up to the minute, but you've been tanning, and then you get there and your face is going to burn anyways. So there's my logic. You can disagree with it or not. I don't know. People will probably be like, Nate, you're crazy. We got Marianne in the house. Thanks for coming in. And plus, you beat me to it. Nearly happy birthday to Paula. Yes, tomorrow is Paula's birthday. So go over and bug her on her channel or her Facebook if you're on there, and make sure you tell her happy birthday tomorrow. She loves it. She does love it. So she absolutely, and I'm sure she loves the fact that before I even mentioned it, Floss is over there like, happy birthday, Paula. She's up there, I'm sure, just with a smile on her face. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Anybody else to say hello to? Auntie Cindy says the beard is better. Eh, it will come back. It will make a comeback. Just because I don't know if you guys can see it. My face always breaks out. So the beard is nice because it keeps your face warm, but it also hides all this nonsense, and I don't got to worry about my complexion. Not like I worry about it that much, and chins and all of that stuff. Beards are great for guys because we hide all of our all of our imperfections. We just grow a beard. Yeah, we can hide it. Lewis and Clark, how's it going? Sorry, I'm scrolling quick because it's time to bring Brandon up. So I got to get through a couple, make sure I say everybody, and we got to say thank you to Lily. I can't pop up my thank yous. I think she knows that because I don't actually pay for StreamYard, and StreamYard's making a money grab, and you can't do that anymore without it. But we do have the dogs here, so let's give them a couple of treats, and then we're going to bring Brandon up. He looks like he's still ready. Of course, we don't have the couch in here. I don't know what I'm going to do with that, guys. All right, get back, get back, get back, get back. Sit, sit. Now, Lily's a double treat member, so she gets two. Wait. You're way too excited for that. You got to wait. Okay, take. Good girls, good girls. And one more. One more. Sit. Wait. Take. Good girls. Lily loves you. I don't know. Can you see him, Lily? Can you see him? Say hi. Hi, Dallas. Hi, Lily. All right. I have to. I don't know what I'm going to do with that because this green screen back here is going to be not so much for the channel, but for the business. I'm going to be making a lot of videos for the business. Be using the green screen a lot for that. Getting that couch in and out is a little bit of a pain because of the legs. I can take it off. I do plan to use it in some videos, so you'll see it come and go. I think it's not perfect for having the dogs in here. You guys don't get to see them as much. Tonight, not as big of a deal because this guy down here, you guys can't see him yet. I'm building it up. You guys, you don't need to see the dogs tonight. We got Brandon here. We got guests, so we're not focused on the dogs tonight anyway, so not a big deal. It was kind of an afterthought. Oh, I guess the dogs will be on the floor. Now everybody's saying happy birthday to Paula. It's not her birthday yet, guys. Look at this, Marion. Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday. Oh my goodness. Happy pre-birthday. No, I get to give her the first official birthday. I might have to stay up. Somebody's gonna text her before I'll fall asleep early like I always do. Okay, last comment. I see Kyle coming in with Lions win, final game of the season. So that means they beat the Bears. Oh, yep, I see it now. 19-16. So what does that mean? Philly, they lose the second seed. Phillies should be the second seed as long as they win. Scroll. No, Philly's losing too? I don't know what that means. I don't know. We'll deal with that later. Congratulations to the Lions fans out there, though. I know we do have quite a few because we do have a lot of people. Oh, that's right. Okay. So Paula's birthday and Ava's birthday tomorrow. And of course, I know Ava has been battling flu and whatnot. Last I read, she's going to be coming back from all of that for her Monday morning live, which we love. It's a great way to start your week. So if she does do it, and you're not at work and where you can't watch YouTube, don't forget that. Okay. Enough of me. This show isn't about me. This show is about Brandon. You guys know him as Scooby Snacks. Number. I don't know the numbers. Scooby Snacks. Brandon, who I always accidentally call Jason. I still don't know why I screw that up. I always have to apologize for it. But his name is Brandon. You guys have he's hung out and chat with us. It's his first time. I'm excited, and we're going to talk scuba. And wherever the conversation goes, you guys are more than welcome to ask questions. You guys know the capital QQQ. If you have a question, that helps me see it. Otherwise, especially as we have a guest and we're talking, I focus on that person, so I tend to miss them more. So please do use that. Use that, especially if it's a question that goes along with the conversation we're having. With that said, Brandon, are you ready, sir? All right, here he is, Brandon of Scooby Snacks. How's it going?
It's going good.
All right. So
Real good.
normally I would kind of carry on a little bit here and let you kind of settle in on the screen, but Brandon, you look like you are cool and collected. Are you even nervous at all?
Not really.
All right, then we don't got to mess with that. I love it. It makes my job
Nope.
easy. Is this my job? I don't know. Okay, Brandon, people in chat know you a little bit, but go ahead and do your own introduction beyond what I just did and tell folks about you, especially if they're not familiar with you.
So I'm Brandon. I'm AKA Scooby Snacks on YouTube. Changed my YouTube name to Scooby Snacks just because all the horror stories that I've heard and seen other YouTubers go through. And just to protect myself and my family as well. So
Yeah.
and I will eventually be doing YouTube videos for my business. Hopefully that's my goal right now is to do some, and I'll also hopefully will have a website up as well. So
So
that's
we've got
and I
people, everybody's saying, Brandon, and we got Debbie saying, good to see you, Brandon. Miss our conversations from the old days. I don't know what these conversations are. You know what? I'm sure there's so many conversations in chat as these things go. I've been, I used to do that all the time on Paula's before we even met each other in person. There's so many side conversations, and I don't ever realize everybody knows each other better than I think. So I don't know. You guys have some connections here. That's awesome. We got our first question. Here's your warm up. Here's your warm up to doing YouTube and all of this. You got to learn to say no. So, question for Brandon. Brandon, are you going until midnight tonight?
Well, Kobe, that's answer for you is no, because this is not my live. This is Nate's live. By the way, Nate, thanks for having me up on your live as we're answering questions.
Absolutely.
This is something actually to help me get out of my comfort zone. Again, just like diving. Diving is helping me get out of my comfort zone even more.
Okay, so that's my first big conversation. We're going to talk about scuba. Everybody here knows, and you guys have seen a little bit of my snorkeling stuff. I don't get to do it all the time. And I was nervous as heck the first time. There's no video cameras of it. I was terrible. I shouldn't even admit that. But yeah, I was on a cruise and I was off on my own on an excursion, and I was at a resort, and you paid and you go snorkeling, and they're like, yeah, this is how you do it. And they throw you in, and you kind of flounder around, and I'm the one in the back going, trying to coming up like I can't breathe. Now I've learned to relax. Okay, but you're not doing snorkeling. You're doing the one. I've said this before on here, but I would love to do scuba. I don't know if my anxiety and my nerves will ever get me there. The more I see it, the more I talk about it, the more I want to do it. So tell us, okay, what's going on with scuba? You're getting into scuba. And if you want to talk about the business as part of that, however you want to manage that, tell us about scuba. You're getting into scuba, and what are you doing with scuba?
Well, first off, I'm doing some snorkeling as well, because that's part of the training. And you're talking to someone who's never snorkeled before, so
Okay.
that's not, like I said, you never know what you're gonna get, because I will do stuff. I will, to a certain point or to a certain extent, I will do stuff to get out of my comfort zone as long as I know I'm safe and other people around me are safe.
Right.
Scuba diving is one of them. I've never been scuba diving either. Never been snorkeling. Never done any of that. Snorkeling is part of the class that I'm. So in fact, Monday, or no, not Monday, Tuesday is my second pool time, and we're gonna hopefully be doing some snorkeling on Tuesday. But that will also lead into, like, if everything goes as planned and goes as smoothly as I think it will, uh I'll be doing scuba stuff as well as snorkeling. Um but
Okay, so
scuba,
as we sit here today, have you snorkeled?
no.
Okay, that's fascinating. Okay, so then my next question is, are you comfortable with water and can you swim well though?
Um
Good enough?
I mean, I can swim good enough.
Okay.
Um
That's where I'm at.
uh,
So that's good. That's good enough for me because yeah, you use equipment and whatnot.
right. Now I think you can do it, Nate. Absolutely. No problem. I mean, if you can swim a lap, I know I can't. I tried it. And I I got in and swam down to the from down to the deep end from the shallow end, but that's just I couldn't go back. So I had
Okay.
to pedal back. But that's I mean, you don't have to be an excellent swimmer. You don't have to be like a Olympic swimmer. As long as you can swim and you know what to do if you get tired, swimming.
Yeah. And it
That's
sounds
the
like you're taking classes, so you're going through it the right way. You're not like me, like throw him in the ocean and see if he floats. I I think
right.
I've shared this story once or twice on here. I actually took the reason I never became a strong swimmer. My sister was. She played water polo. She did swim meets and all this stuff. I did soccer, baseball, and I thought I could do swimming. She left for England, whatever, one year to see my dad a month early for I had a tournament, whatever. And so my mom put me on the swim team when my sister wasn't there, and I even got to do a swim meet. Apparently my problem is I can fake things well enough that people don't know I'm not doing things correctly. So all of I did advanced swimming. I passed advanced swimming classes where I could swim back and forth. Like I don't remember how many times you had to do it, but I always hit a limit. And my dad always taught me to he my dad taught me and would always challenge me to hold my breath. So I didn't realize I used that as a crutch and I never learned to breathe correctly. So when I did the crawl, what I was doing when I would hold my breath underwater, not breathing in, not breathing out. And then you lift your head up and I would, exhale and inhale real quick. So it was a and then hold my breath, go a few strokes and then you can't do that a long ways. So I could literally back then I could dump under, go all the way across the pool pretty much. Well, unless it's a really big pool, and just underwater the whole time because I could hold my breath. But nobody ever realized, and I don't even remember. It was like when I was 25, having a random conversation. I was like, "That's how you breathe." I never was told that, and I did all these classes. I passed advanced swimming in junior high, whatever, screwing it up the whole time. But anyway, but you're learning. Tell us a little bit about. Okay, so you're taking a class, and you're gonna go in the pool. How long is this class, and exactly does it get you scuba certified then?
Well, so I get 3 pool days, which 6 hours, 6 hours of pool time. Now what would get me certified is my dive out. So what a dive out is you after the pool, they'll take you out to the lake and then you dive with your instructor. And then once you successfully go down and come back up, you passed. Like that's
So
your
you
dive
do
out.
that once, and then you can go out on your own, and you're certified, and you're good. You can go
Right.
on
So
super. Oh wow.
yeah. So what I can do, so the thing when you do that, you can go out to waters that you've been trained in.
Okay. So you could go back
So
to that lake.
yeah, I could easily
Okay.
go back to that lake and dive as many times as I want in that lake.
Okay.
And but I can also go to other lakes as well, as
Okay.
long as it's the same way as or the same waters that I dived in during the class or during my dive out.
When you say the same waters, it's not the same location. So are we talking like murky water? Or is it a classification of
Yeah.
the water? Okay. So
Well,
are
so
you going?
like
Oh, go.
so okay, so the lake that I'll be diving in, all right. Say like if it has waves, like small little waves, right? Well, after that, I can go to another lake that has small little waves and
Okay.
dive in that. Now here's the thing. People say, people have asked me, well, what about the current? Well, all water has current, but what to what degree? So the lake that I'll be at diving for my dive out, who knows how strong the current will be? It could be a medium to low risk current, which current is honestly still no good, but
Right.
the low the lowest current that you can, get into is better than a huge current,
Right.
in my
So,
opinion.
okay. So you're taking this class now. So then tell me when you're going to, when you expect all of the classes to be over and you'll be certified. And then tell me about the business and what you're going to do with that once you're done with the classes.
So hopefully I'll be finished up probably within the next couple weeks if
Okay.
everything goes smoothly. Hopefully. That's my goal, is to be finished up, only have 3 pool times and get everything finished up, wrapped up to where I get my certificate. And then business side, I'll be searching for doing search and recovery work. So I'll be diving in, different bodies of water, maybe even lakes, maybe small little ponds if I can. Um, Wherever I can search. Um, Now people say, "Oh, well, you're doing what Jeremy does." Well, yes, I am, but I'm going to be doing hopefully land as well.
Okay.
So I'll have um hopefully a AKC German Shepherd that I'll be getting and training him for cadaver. Then once that happens, then I got 2 specialties, so I could do land and water instead of just water or just land. I can do both. Um, and that way I can also help out, other nonprofits too. So if they happen to find me and say, hey, need help with land, well, sure, you know, I'll go out and help you, you know.
So, so you mentioned the name Jeremy. I don't watch them anymore. Adventures with Purpose, I think, is something along the lines of what you're talking
Uh,
about. Is Jeremy something similar to that? So going
yes,
out and find.
Jeremy and Adam, Exploring with Nug is Jeremy's YouTube channel name, and then Adam is Adventures with no Adam Brown Adventures.
Okay.
Um, they both do the same thing. In fact, they just found 2 missing people um, just by sonar, which is actually, I would say, I say that's cool. That's neat. That's exciting for
Yeah.
me. And that's good. And hopefully one day I'll be able to have those types of tools to where I don't have to dive so much, but I can still dive and use tools at the same time,
So when you
like they
do
can.
when you're gonna do all of this, are you going to be doing it alone, or are you gonna be doing it in a pair? Just because, but my mind immediately, when I think of snorkeling and scuba for travel and all that, you're thinking of clear water. Clear water, you're looking at coral, you're looking at fish. What we're talking about is typically murky water where you can't see, right? And that, by the way, scares the crap out of me. That is what I
Well,
don't know if I'd ever want to do. I want to see the
well,
fish. I want to see the coral. I don't want to go see brown and be like, where am I at? Am I, you know? But that's what you're
well,
talking about. You're talking about brown murky water, or
depending, and that also depends on the season too.
okay.
Like during the summertime, the water's all hot and steamy, and so it's gonna be murky. It's gonna be, you're gonna have dark waters. You're gonna not have very good visibility sometimes, and sometimes you will. Um, Not like during the winter though. Winter months, you'll have clear water. Have clear water and good visibility underneath. Sometimes. Now it can still be murky, it can still be dark underneath. Um, so I mean,
Well, I just think like so we went to Banff this year, right? You think of the like glacier, you kind of think Banff and Glacier National Park, the lakes that you see all the pictures of, crystal clear water, beautiful. Everybody wants to go. Of course, Banff and it's too freaking cold, especially when we went to go in the well, it was still partly frozen. But if the lake was crystal clear, especially like at Banff, where you see everything, they're not going to have a missing person in there. So
yeah, they
anything
will.
with visibility, they're not going to need you. Is where my brain goes.
Well, that's not always. I will. Okay, I will say I will have to disagree with that
Well, that's
because
okay. I'm
even
not an expert, so go ahead.
yeah. Well, I mean, I'm not trying to say that you're wrong, but even in crystal clear water, there's still somebody that can be off in there.
Okay.
There still can be. I mean, just like vehicles, you know, people say, oh, well, vehicles can't be in crystal clear water. They sure can. Absolutely, they can. They're
Can
just going to
I
be easier to find.
can I say how incredibly confident you appear for taking on something that you're learning? And it's great. I'm not saying that is a bad thing because I'm starting my business and I've been doing this for 15, 16 years, the line of work. I guess 17 years now, technically, something like that, a long time. But starting a business, is even doing something I've done, is incredibly nerve wracking. You try not to show it, but so let me ask, are you doing something else to pay the bills until all this picks up?
Well, yeah, I got a full
Okay.
time job. Well,
Okay. So this isn't like you're
full
trying, you're
time.
going for it, but it's not like this is everything. You want it to work. It's exciting, but you've got other things that pay your rent and whatnot.
Right. Oh yeah. No,
Okay. Okay.
absolutely. I'm not now paying rent. Yes, I'll have to keep my job. Now,
Okay.
eventually, well, it's going to be a nonprofit. So, hopefully I would like to be able to do it full time eventually, because honestly, this is my passion. This is what I like to do, or I would like to do full time. This is something that, I think is needed out there. They need more nonprofit search and recovery teams out there. And they need good, honest search and recovery teams as well.
Yeah.
Um, just because, I mean, look how many missing people that are out there, right?
Right.
There's a lot, even kids. It's not just adults. It's kids from 14 and up and 12.
One.
It's crazy. There's Last time I checked, the missing person, there's like 18,000 people still missing. here in the United States.
Wow.
Now, I don't know about anywhere else. I don't know about Canada, but here in the United States, there's at least 18,000 or more. But people go missing every day.
Yeah.
That's the thing. You know, especially kids. Kids will go missing. Why? Because they wander off without their parents. And that's not, to me, that's not very smart. But of course, what does a kid know? You know, I used to wander
Yeah.
off without my mom. You know, I would go
Well,
hide off in the clothes racks,
yeah,
you
well,
know.
I love did is that a kid that all kids do that, right? I thought it was
Yeah,
just me
yeah.
making those cool forts. So I think of a story, when I think when you first started saying you wanted to do this and talk about it and everything, my mind always goes to Adventure with Purpose. And I'm not going to go down that road because I know there's controversy with them, but they're a big channel. People kind of know them. I don't even know if they're still doing it or not. Whatever. Um, but I like what you said about the nonprofit because my admittedly probably ignorant and somewhat uninformed on Adventures with Purpose, but they seem very much about the money and how to get more and all of this and views and all of that. Um, but
Well,
but when I but beside that, one story you talked about kids going missing, and one and then I'll tell the story, and then I'm going to ask you the question of so what inspired you, or is there a story like this that triggered that I want to do this? So when I was actually, I was still when I was doing testing on the trailer, when I still had my house, there was a lake, mile or two, and I'd go camping and then test it out and go back. Well, I was selling. It was actually when I was selling my house, I was losing access to my house, and I had the trailer there. It was my first stop before I went to my dad's and then up to Minnesota. And so the dogs and I were there, and what's the disease when somebody says a child is on the spectrum? Not Alzheimer's. I'm thinking of the wrong word. Somebody will put it in chat. But people that are on the spectrum, I wish I could think of the autistic. So, and again, I could get myself in trouble because I'm not very knowledgeable or whatever. But from this story, I learned some of this or heard some of this, I should say. So there was a child who wasn't young. I think they were somewhere between 10, 14, something like that from my memory, but autistic on some sort of the spectrum further along. And they had basically closed down the entire park except for the RV part, which was a very small portion. The entire thing was cops for like 4 days. All the entrances were blocked with cops. They had divers. They had everybody searching this recreation area. It was not a huge lake, but a sizable lake. And what they said was this autistic child had left, kind of walked off, like you said, now it's even it's you say kids walk off and hide in clothes racks. Well, apparently autistic children will do it more, and apparently they're drawn to water, which I never knew. And again, if I'm wrong on this, I'm sorry. If somebody wants to correct me if I am wrong, I'm completely okay with that. But that this story was at least this child was, and this child loved this lake area, and so they had this child that left school, walked off from wherever he was supposed to be, and the only camera that caught him, it looked like he was on route to this lake. They got to the point they had divers, they looked, they drained, but I guess only so much. I don't know. When I saw it, it didn't look completely drained. Like it was a murky, muddy lake. Great for fishing and whatnot, but when you lose somebody there, they were out there for so I even walked it as much as I could without going past police lines looking because they were saying this child, especially autistic child, not only was the lake a worry that they're drawn to water and if they step in and they can't get their feet out, they could drown quite easily, right? Or get stuck, whatever. That happens even with well qualified adults. They get stuck, they get something traps their leg and they're underwater, and it's very unfortunate. But it can happen. And then you add an autistic child that can't swim or whatnot. But they said that they kind of like to play hide and go seek. So they said this child they could very much the worst could be they could be in that lake, or they could just be hiding in a bush, and they're so laser focused on what they're doing that they don't know to come out for days and days. So they really weren't sure. They had tons of police presence, but So that's the story that I connect with what you're doing, and if you tell me you would, even if it's the unfortunate scenario where that child was in the lake, but they got answers, because as far as I know, I checked in with neighbors a couple of years after, they still did not know what happened to that child. And so if you can find that, and even if it's an unfortunate conclusion, I know that that family would want to know, right? What
Oh
happened to
yeah.
my child? Where did that go wrong? What can we do different so it doesn't happen again? So is there, my whole point is sharing that story. Is there a story like that, or what is it? Watching other YouTubers doing it? What's inspired this? Because it's something you have to learn to scuba to do. So it's not something you've always done. What triggered it? What inspired you to go down this route?
Well, the funny thing is, now that you say that, when I was a little kid, I would I wanted to sit on the armrest of the couch. Now we're talking about probably 5 or 6 years old. Sit on the armrest of the couch and sit and lean back and say, "Onto the underdrink," and hold my nose. And I've totally forgot about that, honestly, until I was like, wait, this is actually something as I did as a kid. I sat on the armrest of the couch and leaned back and said unto the underdrink and held my nose. And so, but my personality, I love people. People are my thing. I hate to see that people go missing. I hate to see people get hurt, but nothing you can do about that. Nothing you can do about people go missing, but go look for them. That's all you can really do. And when you find them, share your condolences with the family. And back to the water, when a kid or even an adult, when they go missing, that's what the dog is for. Dog can smell like still the sense of a human that's already been decayed like several years ago, and be able to jump in the water and make a circle around, and that tells you, hey, he or she is right here somewhere in this circle.
Right. And
So
with the
it's
dog, you're not necessarily just going for cadavers though either, right? Because you could find, if you get involved early enough, you could be trying to save a life, right?
right. Well, and that's the thing though too, because a dog. So the thing is, when you train a dog for cadaver, they can sense. The cool part about it is they can sense a live human being and a human being that has passed away and decayed. So they can distinguish, especially a German Shepherd, they can distinguish those two really well. Like I could go, I don't know, I could probably go off and hide somewhere in the backyard and a German Shepherd could find me.
Oh yeah.
Like easy. Or I can go hide in a bush or something and the German Shepherd could find me.
So when you do all of this, do you plan, because you're down in the Houston area, right? I don't need specific city or anything, but that general area near the coast, kind of in Texas?
I'm actually in Tennessee.
Oh, who was I thinking of then? That must have been Jason.
Well,
Sorry.
no.
So,
Well,
sorry.
So I was down in Houston.
Oh,
And
that's
then
okay. You did tell me that.
Yeah. But
Okay.
then I've been up here for 3 years, going on 4 this
Okay.
year. So
Nashville, Memphis, or the mountains? Which general area?
let's see. So I'm, Signal Mountain, Lookout Mountain area.
Mm-mm. I've
Okay.
only ever been to Nashville. I haven't gone either
Oh,
way.
okay.
I have
Well,
interest in going both ways. That's why I'm asking. I was like, what trip do I got to go to go say hi to Brandon?
yeah. So actually, I think 2 to 3 hours outside of Nashville.
Okay. To the east?
I think south. So if you go
down
out
towards the border, then of what would that be?
kind of
Alabama?
North Carolina, I'm border North Carolina and Georgia.
Okay. South and east then.
Yeah.
Well, then I really got to go further out of my way than I was hoping, Brandon.
Yeah.
I was hoping
I
you were.
mean,
I was actually, well, my I don't want to say where my sister lives either, but she lives, we'll say the Nashville area, even though it's not in Nashville. So I do end up there, and my grandma's in that general same area, so I've got a reason to go there to visit. And like I think, last year Paul and I went on our way down to the coast, right? But
yeah.
Memphis, in my line of work, because I work in banking and fair lending and discrimination, Memphis is a fascinating town, city when you start looking at redlining, and I won't get into all of that, but that's why I'm like, I want to get to Memphis. I've never been to Memphis. Memphis and Cleveland are the two. The
Oh
more I
man.
kind of do research and stuff, I want to visit those two cities for that to see. Okay, can you? I've been to Detroit, right? I can drive. I remember driving down Detroit. And somebody from Michigan, because we got a lot of Michiganders, are going to be like, Nate, don't say that. But I could drive down the freeway, and I could tell
Yeah.
when the minority communities started and ended. And you should be able to do that. So
Yeah.
that's stuff that drives me, right? It's so not really part of this conversation. Anyways, that's why I was like, what about Memphis? What about Memphis? But no.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'm 5 hours away from Memphis.
Okay.
So
You're still in the state. Hey, the whole state of Tennessee, I think, is a beautiful state. Hey,
yeah.
from
No,
what I've seen, and
absolutely.
it's just different. It's very different in the different areas. I'm gonna check. Okay,
Mhm.
chat real quick. I'm gonna shut up asking questions for a second. I think there were a couple in here. I don't know if it's for you or me. And well, let's just go through chat real quick. I'm gonna work backwards, guys. So don't worry if you think I skipped. Don't type it in yet. But if you have a question you haven't asked, go ahead, throw it in. Um, they're talking about Rocky because Rocky is a German Shepherd. Lily is saying, now I got to scroll up because I think there was something I got to pull up to get context on this. So Lily says, my father-in-law had dementia and we couldn't find him. Thank goodness teenagers found him stuck in a ditch and helped him out and get back to his nursing home. Can you imagine that feeling the first time you find somebody like that that's alive and you've saved? Have you
Yeah,
thought about that? That's
I have. And that's the sad thing about the whole that's the sad thing about search and recovery work, because it is rare to find somebody still alive. I hate to say that,
right.
but it is. It's rare. If you find somebody alive, which actually has happened recently, a lady just vanished and disappeared. They didn't know where she went, and she was found alive. But that's a rare thing. And why I say it's rare, not to knock local PDs by no means, but I have to disagree with how they do searches.
Okay.
Um, so and it's been proven multiple times that they'll just dip their boat they'll put their boat in, but they won't go very far. They'll say, "Oh yeah, well, we searched this area. We can't find nothing." And then they just be like, "Okay, done." They take their boat out, they take everybody out of the water, and then 3 months later, 4 months later, cold case. Just like that.
Yeah.
Nonprofit
They
comes
go
along.
through the process, but it's not like somebody who knows that person, who
Right.
terribly wants
Right.
to find that person and the effort that they will go through.
Right. Well, and two, here in the States, I don't know, again, I don't know about Canada, I don't know about anywhere else, but here in the States, if your a loved one went missing, you can't report them missing for 48 hours. And that's what I also disagree with. Because, within that 48 hours, that person can be found. But where you can't report them missing for 48 hours, you
Because
got
they don't
no,
want to
I
use the
mean,
resources, right? They want to wait, make sure
right.
they're actually missing. But yeah, you give up the chance to actually. And I'm going into TV shows, but TV shows and movies, they always say what? Well, maybe even the news. The first 24 hours, if you don't find them, and the later it gets, the worse your odds are, right? And I don't
Oh
know.
yeah.
I'm going
No,
off TV
that's
shows, so this isn't research, but I believe it.
no, that's 100. That's the truth. The truth. That like it's sad. That's what it's not good. I mean,
So
look at how many people could have been found alive.
yeah. So
But that's where I would come in. They can contact me, because I'm going to have an email, of course. They can email me and say, "Hey, would you be willing to come help us search for my son, daughter, husband, wife, whoever went missing?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, sure. Give me all the details in email. Send me, where they were going, where they were heading."
so I assume you're going to do this in a local area that you now live in Tennessee, that kind of area you described, right? You're not going to go around the country like some of the others, at least not yet.
Well, my plan is to get all 48 states if I can. To hit up all 48 states. I mean, not all at once,
Right.
but little by little work towards the rest of the states that outside of Tennessee. Because it's not just one state that needs help. It's
Right.
it's everywhere. And you're like, well, you're talking about Louisiana where it's just swamp. Well, what you gonna do? People down there need help too.
Yeah. Do,
Now, I'm
do,
I'm I'm not gonna die by myself. That's for sure. That's
right.
but anywhere, I'm not gonna die by myself. But I can actually do land searches.
Have you given thought to having a drone with you too? That's got like, because I've seen that on the news and I think of
Thermal.
dogs. My mind always goes to dogs. People are more important. I do believe that. Don't get me wrong. But where they've got the drones that go up. Now, of course, it's got to be nice weather where a dog doesn't necessarily. But drone goes up and they've got the heat signatures. Have you thought about that, or will you
Oh
do any
yeah.
of that?
Thermal.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to get a thermal. That's my goal. And that's what I want to do. That's one another piece of equipment that I would like to get is a thermal drone that I can send up and search and see if I can get a heat signature,
And then go
from
out. Yeah.
anywhere
Save
on
yourself
land.
some time. Because that
Yeah,
can cover more area, right? And at least focus. Okay, we've got maybe a hit potential over here, and everything else couldn't see anything.
right. Well, also, I mean, yeah, that will save some time, but too, a German Shepherd can cover more land than a human being can.
True. Do you just
Anytime.
so when you're working with the German Shepherd, I know you don't have it yet, but do you basically say go and it searches and you can stay where you're at, where you don't have to kind of use all your energy? Or do you
So
have to
here's
be
the
like
thing.
right alongside them?
No, I can unleash him and let him go.
Okay.
And
So yeah, that
he
would be
won't. I mean, he won't. That's the thing. He's gonna be trained well enough to stay in that area in your visible to where he's visible, but at the same time, you know, I want to put a oh, what's that tracking device thing that Apple that you can track your phone with? A tag.
I
Yep.
just happened to have cleaned my office and I got to because my dogs have them because yeah, Pippa gets away. If I don't have
Yeah.
this and the battery dies, I ain't gonna find her. Now,
Yeah.
Dallas is gonna go run up to the next car. She's still got one, but yeah.
But
Yeah, I think they're great to have on dogs' collars.
oh yeah.
Uh,
Um,
let's go through. I've got scrolled up here, and I don't know if either of us are qualified to answer these, but we can give it a shot. Lily, much earlier, said, "How would you help someone get over fear of water?" I don't know the answer to that. Do you have an idea?
Probably shouldn't take my advice on that, but
Throw them in.
well, either throw them in or go tell them to jump in a puddle of water first, like Captain Jack. But
Yeah.
no, in all honesty, you know, swim lessons. Sign up with a coach. Sign up with a find somewhere in your local area that does swim lessons.
Debbie says to make me learn how to swim, my grandfather tossed me off the side of the houseboat and said, "Swim." The next week, my mom had me in swim classes. So, did they have to actually grab you out, Debbie, or did you actually manage to get back? No, that was the old way of doing it, right? Now, I don't know when it's,
Not
and I'm not going to tell anybody to go throw somebody in the water and tell them to swim. I don't know if that's a great idea. I know it's an old kind of thing, and it worked for some, and who knows who it didn't work for. But you also think of that as like kids, right? Kids are.
yeah.
I think your chances of learning a lot of things, quite frankly, languages, swimming, all of that stuff. If you learn it as a kid, you're more likely to learn it or not be scared and all of that. When you become an adult, now it's on you to go if you want to do it, right? You've got to find the solution. Which
Yep.
to me, I'm scared of scuba diving, but I want to scuba. I don't
Uh,
know. Now, I have at our wedding, they had, because we're down in Mexico where they did have scuba instructors, and my best man almost ran off and did scuba class instead of worrying about the wedding. I was like, oh, but what they did was they brought the scuba equipment to the pool. And they said, okay, anybody that wants to try scuba in the pool, they'll put the gear on. And that experience helped me, but also kind of freaked me out because at first I was I'd go under, I'd have the equipment on, and I'd struggle and I'd freak out and I'd pop back up. But it's that
yeah.
panic, it's that struggle. It wasn't like a nice, oh no, let's get to the surface. It's a, oh my God, my anxiety kicks in. And that's why I'm like, I don't want to be 50 feet underwater looking at coral and something goes wrong and my breathing gets weird and I panic because that's a bad situation, right? But but,
Well,
but
right.
that was a nice way to test it without going into even a deep pool because I can stand up.
Yeah. Yeah. So here's the thing. You can find a scuba if you really want to do scuba. I know you can do it.
Oh, I'm sure.
I have faith in you that you can do it. And that's why you got to go through a class.
Yeah.
That's why you can't just say, "Hey, I'm going to go get me a BCD and a scuba tank and a mask, and I'm just going to go jump in and go." Man, no, don't do that.
Oh no.
Find
I
a
would I
local.
wouldn't, trust me.
Yeah, yeah. I
Younger me
mean,
might.
but here's the thing: find a scuba course that's local or that's near you in your town that does one-on-one lessons, and that's that's exactly what I found. He's a nonprofit, really good guy, really nice guy. He's been doing it for 20 years or longer, and he does one-on-one. That's it. And he'll sit down with you, explain everything. If you got questions, you can ask him. He'll answer your questions, all that. And he'll make sure that you're comfortable. And he will find a way to make you or to let you be comfortable and not freak out. Um,
I did have a question on the screen, but I don't know if you saw it, but you were answering it as I pulled it up. So you already answered the one. Here's the next one. Yeah, here's the first one. Where are you taking your classes? You just answered that without knowing it. And then Floss
yeah.
asked, "Are you going to help any of the other dive teams out there? So are you just going to do your own thing, or if somebody wants to collaborate, if you will, or if they call you and just need another person to go do a search, are you going to work with anybody else that you know of?"
Well, my goal is I already got a person that wants to work with me, that wants to collaborate with me. Not going to mention his name.
That's okay.
Um, I'll toss his channel out there. It's Georgia Dives. Um, he's been wanting to search for missing people and continue that. He hasn't been able to because nobody has wanted to go out there with him and do it. And so I know he's one that um I would definitely collab with. Now I would collab with Jeremy and Adam. I would love to collab with them for sure.
That's the
Um
what was the name? I know I sorry, I'm listening, but I'm also kind of scrolling through chat to pull things up too. That was the wrecked. What was it? Wrecked and somebody pulled the name
Beckton
up. Wrecked and
recovered.
recovered. There we go. Okay, that was
That's
the okay.
right.
Really?
That's Adam and Jeremy's channel, both of their channels. But their own personal channels is Adam Brown Adventures and Exploring with Nug.
Okay.
Very good people. I would highly recommend if you want someone new to watch, go watch them. They they're spot on with everything. They take things seriously when they need to, but they also, joke around and have fun at the same time. Of course, with boats, you never know what you're going to get with that, you know. But yeah, so I would like to definitely collab with more people eventually, but we'll see where it takes. And if people want to collab with me, feel free to reach out to me when I'm done, when I get everything up and running.
Paula, she asked this a little bit ago. Oh, she said you're kind of going to be like that guy on the TV show Tracker, and then that went, and then Kobe saying his mom's obsessed with. We went down a whole different chat in the chat channel, but they're all talking about Tracker and how you're going to be like Tracker, basically solving unsolved crimes that police can't do, and they probably look at you as you're in the way, and you're the one that might actually get it solved, right?
Oh,
That's
maybe.
a good point.
Yeah. But that's my goal though, is to help solve these missing people that have been gone for 3-4 years or whatever.
So
Um,
So we talked about it's not a good chance of finding somebody alive, but when that happens, and I'm sure you're going to do it, it's going to be an amazing feeling, and I'm sure it's going to be the best thing you ever do in your life until you do it the next time. But and I think you're already aware that you're going to find bodies. How do you mentally prepare yourself for that?
well, that's a hard question to ask. I mean, well, it's an easy question to ask, but a hard question to kind of answer, just because you're right. It's mind blowing. It really is. I mean, I don't even know how to answer that question real
Do you
honestly.
personally feel like you know you'll be okay when that happens the first time? Or do you like for me, I don't know what I would do. I think I would probably freak out a little bit and then I'd be kind of sad and I don't want to say depressed, but it would hit me.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. It'll hit me for sure. Just because, it's somebody's loved one that went missing and never been found. That that's gonna break my heart. But that's gonna happen. You can't it's hard not to be hurt over it, not to be sad over it, because you look at a family that lost a loved one somehow, right? So it's just you yeah, you got to go on with it. And YouTubers, and that's the thing. Um Jeremy and Adam, you can see how they deal with it. They're sad, they're hurt, you know, but inside it's joy. They're happy, they're honored, they're grateful that they could actually find somebody's loved one and find the answers of where they, to give to the family.
Yeah.
And there's no way, I mean, unless if you work in a funeral home, I guess that you can
And you're
start
used
out
to it.
there.
I've got one more question, and then I'm gonna let you go. Because I'm gonna Paula's say get to Venezuela because she always wants my opinion. And I don't want to keep you all night. So through all of this, one thing that I think of when we talk about missing people, that I think a lot of people know about, but I don't know if it's really if the resources have been dedicated to fix it. When we talk about people going missing, and maybe this is more sex trafficking, and maybe some of it's just other stuff, but you hear about on like Native American reservations or that community, especially with young females, that they go missing a lot. And those don't get the resources and the attention to actually solve the cases, especially early on. Do you have, I'm just curious, do you have any thoughts on that? Or know
Well,
anything
I mean,
more about it than I do?
I mean, if Indian reservations, they got a separate government, of course. Their government is totally separate from our government.
Yeah.
Now, I would say if one of them happens to find me somehow and say, "Hey, would you be willing to help us find, our son, daughter, father, mother, whoever, aunt, uncle, whoever, we'll be more than happy to help you out."
Yeah.
I'll be like, "Yeah, sure. I'll be more than willing to help you out." You know,
That's wonderful.
um,
And I
you
just
know,
don't know, like being from South Dakota and kind of North Dakota, there's some I'm not hugely knowledgeable. I wish I was more knowledgeable on that just because I hear that, way back, I'm a 1/32nd or whatever. And I obviously don't look at it and I'm not connected to it, but a small part of the back of my mind always remembers, that this a very small part of you is that, and there are some of those communities that really struggle. Now, like you said, they're each their kind of own government, so one can be doing pretty well, and then another one because they're different and they don't share resources or whatever can really be struggling. And I'm aware of some, and so I don't know that there's a one size fits all for that. I just know that I've heard and I believe because they are looked at as kind of a and I think it might be more along sex trafficking, where
well,
they are looked at as a maybe
uh,
an easier target because they don't get the attention and they don't have the same resources, something like that. But
yeah.
okay, I won't go down that route anymore. I was just curious, and
Well,
I tend to ask questions that
no, I mean, but you're right though. I mean, sex trafficking is how people go missing too.
yeah,
That's part of it. A lot of the, which is actually another sad part, story of it, sex trafficking, um, suicide, um, you know, people just wander off in lakes and either fishing or boat capsizes. There's several different ways that a person could go missing. Um, and especially kids. Kids, it's not hard for kids to go missing because kids, they're small. So anybody can just come up and shoot, and then they're like, "Oh, well, where's my kid at?" Well, who knows, and that's why, it's very important when you're out, when if you're a parent and you have small kids that are old enough to walk, don't let them go run around the store by themselves. Don't let them go hide in the clothes racks. Keep an eye out on
oh,
them.
come on, kids want to hide in clothes. I know they
I
shouldn't, but
know,
I
I
remember
know,
loving
but
doing that.
yeah, well, I mean, to us, when we were kids, we thought it was fun,
It was also a
but
different time. I
right,
know
right,
everybody always says that, and our parents said that, but yeah, it's different time,
right,
and there's different threats in this world. So
right. Well, And so when, with that being said, watch your kids. If you're looking at, if you're at Walmart shopping for sheets or something, and you're looking at different sheets and you got your kid or kids with you, don't just pay attention to that sheet. Look to make sure your kids are still there, because you can easily spot a suspicious person, especially if you watch your six and your kid six. You can easily spot suspicious behavior, and you can usually, if you spot it, you can easily get away from it sometimes.
Yeah. Well, Brandon,
Like,
thank
that's just my advice.
yeah. Thank you so much for coming up and talking to us about this. It sounds like you're at the beginning of a really amazing adventure. That's I don't know. It's going to have some tough spots because when you succeed, it's also got some sadness to it. But it
Yeah.
sounds like something that's going to drive you. And please keep us up on your journey. We always love having you here. I know you're in the chat a lot, and I'll eventually get your name right. Not, but but thank you so much for coming up and sharing. I'm so happy that you, I never know when somebody's new if they're gonna be nervous or not. So that was great. Uh, Good luck with the training and the certification. And when you actually get started, say something in chat and we'll talk. We're always willing to kind of talk about it. You know how we work here. We're pretty informal. So if you're at a certain stage or you've got your website up or you're going on your first search, let us know and we'll kind of talk about it a little bit and then we'll kind of follow your journey through that. And if you ever have any questions on starting a YouTube channel or something, absolutely you got my phone number and my email. So don't be afraid to ask questions. I'll answer them as quick as I can. I got a business I'm trying to start too, so there's a lot to everything, right? I'm sure you're probably already aware of it. So, thank you so much, and we'll see you around in chat.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right,
Thanks for having me up.
absolutely. I'm gonna go ahead and drop you down, and then oh, there we go. So he's down there. I think he can hear me okay. Brandon, go ahead. It doesn't matter if you stay in the on the StreamYard side or on YouTube if you want to hang out and chat. I'm going to, for a little bit here, talk about Venezuela and what's going on with Venezuela. Everybody's saying thank you, Brandon. Thank you, Brandon. Everybody's excited to see you in person, especially Floss, who I'm sure it sounds like you probably talked to Floss and Debbie. You guys have all been around the channel for so long, so you guys probably know each other better than I realize. Um, oh man, yeah, oh, I don't know. That would be the hardest part for me. Even if I could get past the scuba, I don't know how I would react if I did as much as I would want to help. I don't know how I would react or how I would handle it personally. So that's absolutely awesome that Brandon's doing that and hopefully he's successful at it. Because like I think I saw a lot of comments in chat. I couldn't pull them all up. There's definitely a need for it because there's still a lot of people out there, and it's proven that a lot of people can do it through YouTube and have good results that they're not getting through the normal channels through the police and all of that. So I'll talk a little bit about Venezuela. If you guys have any questions on it, now obviously I have my limitations. I don't know everything, but I've got some thoughts on Venezuela relating to travel. We'll start with that because this is a travel channel. Not it's going to affect Americans, but not nearly as it is a lot of other countries, especially Canada. So I've got some thoughts on that. Let me do this. I'm gonna share my screen and we're gonna pull up a map and I'm just gonna talk through some of my thoughts on this and they are evolving. I will say this, and I think a lot of people have posted thoughts about Maduro is bad. I have not seen one person out there that says it is a bad thing that Maduro has been taken away from Venezuela. He's a bad guy as far as everybody knows. He's narco terrorist is what they've coined him, but he's doing drug dealing. He's basically driven the country into the ground, along with was it Chavez before him that he kind of became the successor because Chavez trusted him. So that part, I don't think anybody worries about. Maduro out of the scene, out of power. Great. No, I don't think you're going to find anybody complaining about that. There are some concerns as far as whether we should be jumping into other countries like that. I don't know the answer to that, quite frankly. I'll talk about it a little bit. There's some other examples that can kind of guide my thinking. It does make me uneasy. I do think that there's some, and I will be watching the Secretary of State websites. Of course, Marco Rubio, who's a part of all of this, runs all of that. So what they will do might be muted. So does the reliability of that become less now because they may be up to more? And I think that's the biggest thing. I told Paula, I think 2 months ago, a month ago, why I was following and kind of watching Venezuela so much. And we know Trump says a lot of things. And is it rhetoric or is it something that they're actually going to go in and do something? And then it became the blockade. And it's like, they started just blowing up boats, first of all. And that's one that people probably struggle with. You might be for it because, well, you're blowing up drug boats, but a lot of the boats weren't going necessarily to the U.S. So it's kind of outside the norm for the U.S. If somebody's a drug dealer, to just blow them up, right? We believe in due process in this country, so that's the first thing that kind of made me uneasy. But if you, at what point is the good and the benefit of stopping drugs? As long as that's what the real thing of what they're doing is doing, and yes, they will to some extent. I fully admit that. And then they did the blockade and they started doing the oil tankers and taking those away. And the shadow fleet, if you know about Russia and you watch that, and I don't talk about it too much, but I follow that very well in Ukraine and Russia. And part of what's holding Russia up is this shadow fleet. Well, they started taking some of these shadow fleet oil tankers. And again, yes, it's got some good impacts that I like. Because if we take away the shadow fleet, people like Venezuela and people like Russia lose their economic resources for what they're doing that's bad. And we all agree on what's bad, right? The war in Russia or the war in Ukraine and drug trafficking going through Venezuela. So there's a lot of things that, yes, absolutely, there's some good things to it. But somebody was talking earlier, and I've been reading a lot and watching a lot. Do the ends justify the means? So I don't think a lot of people are right now worried about the ends, like Maduro being out. Nobody's really wrong with that. Drug traffickers losing their channels, nobody's too worried about that. But the means, doing it without due process, does that sit right in your stomach? Going in to another country that has sovereign rights, does that sit right with you? To me, when I ask that question to myself, I immediately think of Osama bin Laden. Osama bin Laden is the one that, and to me, he was part of 9/11, part of killing many, many people. It was proven. And yes, they went into India. They didn't tell them. And yes, there was sovereign rights kind of ignored at that point. That one to me, I'm okay with. This one's a little bit different. It's a little less cut and dry, if you will, especially when you start trying to explore what is the reason they did it. Is it the drugs? Is it the indictment? Or is it oil? There's a lot of strong indication, especially when they start talking about oil right away, and that they've been talking to these oil executives, that it's really because of oil. And if it's because of oil and not because of the other, then I start having more questions about the sovereignty and whether the United States should go into another country and attack them and pull their people out without any due process. There was one example from Noriega back in the day with the Panama Canal, and who was again, I could be wrong on this, guys. I'm not an expert in any of this, but I've been reading and watching a lot. But Noriega back in the day was actually a CIA asset. So the CIA was actually using him for information, but then he got so involved in drugs and money laundering that they couldn't ignore it, and so they went into Panama. Mostly in this case, I think they were worried about the Panama Canal, and so they took Noriega out. So there is precedence for the United States to go in and get somebody involved in drugs. One second. Paul says, is what Trump did legal? I don't know. I don't know if the blockade is actually legal, and it depends. I mean, whether you're talking UN laws or not, right? International norms, or is it laws, and who actually can enforce the UN laws, and you start doing this too much, do you just start crippling all of that? So you've got the question of sovereignty. Can you just go into another country and attack them? And apparently, and maybe they're trying not to call it an attack or a war, but an operation. Okay, that's words. Um, but the question to me when we start thinking about travel is, what does this mean for other countries that we're traveling to in the Caribbean? Now, let me pull up a map here. Let me pull up a map. Let me get rid of because this is the Mexico is going to be the one you first think of. If they can do this in Venezuela and it's considered justified, what about Mexico? And that's the one that I will automatically, right now. I've always been a proponent of traveling to Mexico, and people say it's unsafe. Now, I don't think I would travel to Mexico because you don't know what's going to happen. Now you could accidentally go to Mexico and you're in your hotel and there's basically a war breaks out outside. Well, yeah, I started reading both of your chats. Let me share the screen here. I got myself distracted. Share an entire screen. Here's a map. Oh, let me redo it. I don't think shoot. Can you guys hear me right now? Can you hear me with this up? Can I get a one in chat? Sometimes I miss a click, and I think I might have missed my click. So if you guys, okay, I see the one. Thank you, Paul. Okay, so here's a map of Venezuela, and I'm probably going to look over here because I can see it better. So here's Venezuela, Caracas. Now there were different points of where they attacked or went in, but Caracas is the city. This is where they actually got Maduro. So you can see it's not far from the coast. So they had ships. They were able to get close enough that they could fly helicopters in. That's typically how they do those. The same thing with Osama bin Laden. They got somewhere close enough and did that. That's not atypical, and it somewhat reminds me of that, although there are bigger explosions and whatnot involved. A little bit more of a military operation in that regard. So Caracas is the capital, I believe. That's where Maduro was, right by the lines. Now, when you look at Venezuela, what people think, the next question is going to be, is that it? Are we done? Or are we going to put troops on the ground? And Trump has said he is willing, he didn't say we're going to, but willing to put troops on the ground. That concerns me for a few reasons. Venezuela has a lot of guns and a lot of regional militias, right? So you might, in order to take over the whole country, the U.S. military is very strong, but it would be a big undertaking even for them. Could they go in and just take certain parts of the coastline? Sure. But think about the rationale for this. Was it because he's a narco terrorist? If that is the case, if that's the case, if this is the new norm for what we're going to do to people involved in drug kingpins, there's indictments for a guy in Honduras. We would see us go into Honduras and do the same thing. We would see it in Mexico as well. Quite frankly, a lot in Mexico, right? So we would see it in other countries if that's the reason, which I doubt, right? Because of how quick they started talking about Venezuelan oil. Now, Venezuela has the most oil of any country in their oil fields, even though they don't have a lot of output right now because the infrastructure is bad. So now they're talking about, okay, one, they're going to run the country, which they're saying they're going to do policy, but how do you do policy without boots on the ground? So that doesn't add up unless they really think that the leadership, the power suction or power vacuum, whoever ends up in that power role is scared enough of the U.S. that they're just going to kind of fold and do what they say. I doubt that. But they're really interested in the oil, is my opinion, I should say. That's what adds up to me. So when we look at Venezuela, you have to say, is Trump is saying we're going to go in, we're going to build the infrastructure of the oil fields, and we're going to take the oil. The oil's ours now, which you can't really do that either. But let's say he wants to do that. Let's say that's really what he's after. You've got oil fields up here where you can't see this bay. There's a lot of oil fields there and pipelines to kind of that choke point there is a terminal, and there's other pipelines that go up here. But the vast majority of the oil that makes them the world leader in their oil is in this area here along that river. I can zoom in here. It's called the Orinoco Basin or something. The same word as that. So in here is where a vast majority of Venezuela oil is. What is in between that? There's a lot of land. There's a lot of lands and jungles, and of course, there's mountains along this ridge here. And of course, there's pipelines that go. There's a pipeline up to Caracas from over here, which isn't a major oil field. But this major Orinoco, if I'm saying it correctly, oil field, the pipelines go up to kind of like this Puerto La Cruz and Cumana area. So if you're actually going to go in and take the oil that he claims he's going to that would really matter, and you're going to build an infrastructure that is actually meaningful and long term, where these oil companies are going to want to actually invest, like Trump says they're going to want to invest, they've got to come in this far into the country for the real stuff. There, mind you, there is some stuff they could go out over here, which would be much less invasive. They might actually be able to do it, but it's nothing like the oil over here. So I don't know. To me, the more I read, the more I research, you've got a lot of maps, you've got a lot of people, you've got a small military, you don't have a lot of capabilities, you don't have a lot of air capabilities and such. So yes, you could fly in, you could pretty well control the airspace pretty quickly. But can you land and actually rebuild the oil infrastructure all the way from Puerto La Cruz and into this Orinoco Basin? That is going to become guerrilla warfare. And there's millions of guns in AKs and such, and territorial militia in Venezuela. If that is what they are talking about, I become greatly concerned. Now, okay, so I said the two scenarios. What is the real reason behind the strike? Is it because and they've got this nice narco terrorism? They attach terrorism to everything to make it sound worse. They're drug kingpins, right? Okay, is it really terrorism as I think of it? No, I think of it as 9/11 in Afghanistan and such. But they name it that, okay. But we're talking about, is it because of the drugs and their involvement in drugs, and of course murders and such that go along with that, right? To stay in power with those drug routes, or is it because of the oil? The other thing that does not add up with, and I think most people have realized this by now, they, even with the tariffs, Trump has said it's because of the drugs, it's because of the fentanyl. Even to Canada, and Canada is not really the fentanyl problem for the U.S. So we all know that is lip service that Trump likes to use to get us fearful and get us to do tariffs. And with the tariffs, I really think he's trying to bring a big hammer to negotiations. I don't necessarily think that's right or wrong, but it's a little bit less serious than the sovereignty issues that we're talking about here. So we already know that Trump likes to use drugs as an excuse. He's used it for tariffs all year. And now he's using drugs as an excuse with Venezuela. However, what doesn't add up, just like with Canada and the tariffs, the fentanyl that everybody's actually worried about. I mean, yes, cocaine bad, and all the cocaine from Colombia goes through Venezuela. So Venezuela is not actually really, they're not growing the majority of it. Is there some? I think so. But they're really serving as a route from Colombia through the Caribbean. There's also routes up through Central America as well as the Pacific. So they're not the only route. But all of the drug excuses and lip service, they always make it sound like it's about fentanyl. And Venezuela really has nothing to do with the fentanyl, just like Canada doesn't have anything to do with the fentanyl. The fentanyl, the precursors come from China. It gets assembled in Mexico, and then it comes up. That is where the vast majority of the fentanyl comes from. Fentanyl is what the vast majority of, I think, most people are most worried about, because we all see that we've all at this point mostly seen the zombies and people hunched over and all of that. That is real. It is happening. But what he's doing is not doing anything to solve that. So let's go back to travel for a second. So we've talked about Mexico. I don't think I would want to go to Mexico right now. Nobody knows what Trump is doing. He's highly changing absolute norms all over the place. I would have before Saturday, I would have said, be careful in Mexico, Baja, and the Yucatan Peninsula. Sure, go. I'm not too worried about those two places. Right now, I no longer say that. I don't think I'd want to go to Mexico because I don't know what war is going to start outside my door. Now, yes, I think, again, I'm not DEA or anything, but I think most of the cartels operate mostly in here and then traffic throughout the center, right? There's some you hear starting to be in Yucatan, but they still want to keep the tourism, so they try to keep it on the down low or whatever. But I wouldn't want to travel to Mexico right now. What about, and I just had a friend go here, and I've got it highlighted because I was searching it. Roatan. I've been there. Cruise ship stop. That's Honduras. Honduras has indicted drug kingpins. Are we going to see our fleet up here? And if the rationale was the drug kingpin or narco terrorism, however you want to word it, if that is the true rationale, they will go into Mexico and they will go into Honduras. Not that I believe that's the rationale. I think it's oil. So let's go back to oil. Oh, real quick while we're on the map, because Marco Rubio keeps bringing it up. What about Cuba? I wouldn't go to Cuba. Okay, Americans can't go to Cuba. Canadians can. I've researched it because Paula has gone to Cuba, and it's an affordable option, and it's not like the crazy nice resorts or anything. And Cuba over the last year or two has become a little bit more sketchy to travel to because they've had energy shortages and food shortages, and it's gotten worse. Because they rely, guess who Cuba relies on? They rely on Russia, who's in a war, and Venezuela. And their power grid is built for oil, not natural gas and coal and all of that, which is less efficient. They're not going to be getting oil from Venezuela. They're probably not getting much from Russia. And they keep coming up in this conversation with Venezuela because some Cubans, I guess, were guarding Maduro. I don't know. But you do have some connections. So even if you're Canadian, I would be hesitant to go to Cuba. If they attacked Cuba or did anything in Cuba, well, guess what? We know it's not because of the drugs, because Cuba is not a big drug problem. Actually, they're quite researching that. They're quite against drug trafficking in their waters and such, and are very strict on it. So Cuba is not a drug problem, but that's more of a political issue, and I won't get too far into that. That's the whole thing with Cuba really goes back to the Cold War. The rationale for hating Cuba these days isn't as strong as it used to be. Other than, yes, they have ties to states like Russia and Venezuela, which nobody likes. And of course, you go back to the Cold War and the Cuban Missile Crisis, and yes, they have been used in the past, so there is that. The one other thing, I'll check chat in a second because I do want to. If you guys have any questions, I'm just kind of going to blurt all this out. My last thought here, talking about Canada. I told Paula, watch Venezuela. If Trump is willing to go into Venezuela, he is willing. That concerns me with all his other Greenland, Canada comments. All of those things suddenly become far more real. Canada also is bound to lose by this because of the oil. So the states back in the day got a lot of oil from Venezuela before Chavez, and then Chavez to Maduro, and so in the same time, Venezuela's oil supply to the U.S. has gone down, Canada's gone up. The oil is this heavy. They call it sour rather than light sweet. It's heavy sour. I don't think anybody's actually tasting the oil. I hope not, but that's what they're calling it. Venezuelan oil is very similar to Canadian oil. We know, or he says, Trump wants Canada to be the 51st state. I don't know that I think Trump would actually attack with force Canada or Greenland. That would be, most Americans would be like, okay, something's wrong. We got to do something. Quit my job, go do something about what's going on wrong in the world. It's such a, and I'm not saying it will never happen because who knows with this guy, but it's quite out there. But what I do believe Trump could or may want to do is economically devastate through tariffs and other sources Canada and Greenland and say, hey, come, we'll take care of you. That approach, right? We're not attacking you, but we're going to weaken you so much through economics that now you're incentivized to come join the United States. How would the attack on Venezuela and the oil do that? Okay, let's assume I showed you the oil fields and how bloody of a mess that would be, especially if they go for these Orinoco oil fields. And that would be a long, drawn out. I actually crunched the numbers. If you use the NATO and the UN numbers of how many forces you need to control a population that you're a foreigner for, or I forget the right word right now. But for us to go into Venezuela, the number is four or one, or sorry, I forget the number off my head, but when I did the math and you take Venezuela's population, you are talking about a military force of 800,000 to a million people to control the whole country. Could the US do it? Eventually, yes. Would it be a bloody mess? Do any Americans truly want that? I highly doubt it. In order for them to actually get to this oil and build pipelines, how they think that they're claiming all these oil companies are going to want to go do, if it's this oil field that actually matters, that is going to be a bloody mess. And that will require a ton of troops, and you would have to be on the ground. Over here, I'm not as convinced on, and maybe that's what they're talking about. But if this is the oil that they're talking about, I don't think the big oil companies are going to be risking a whole lot for this. For access to this, if Trump promised them access to this basin and they were going to use the U.S. military at the U.S. taxpayer expense to control this oil field, that's going to be very expensive and to the American taxpayer, to the military, and a lot of lives. Now, back to my point with the oil, Venezuelan and Canadian oil is very similar. American refineries are built for that heavy, sour oil. It's not built for the light, sweet oil that America actually has. So that's why when Venezuela, they weren't getting their oil from Venezuela, they started getting it from Canada. And most of that comes from Calgary and some from Saskatchewan. Actually, we've got oil fields down here. So you've got pipelines that go down from Calgary and Alberta and Saskatchewan, and that's how you're getting oil from Canada. If America suddenly controls that Orinoco oil field at the expense of a lot of dead military members and taxpayers to the benefit of rich oil titans, that's also going to cripple Canada, which Trump, we know, wants to do, or at least in lip service says he wants Canada, and this is how he would do it. What does that mean for Canada? Canada has actually, what Americans don't realize about Canada, and I didn't realize till I moved up here and started watching the news, Canada is actually far more segregated than you would think than the United States. In the United States, there's it's called a US, not USC. That's the college. There's an old law that basically says if it affects interstate commerce, then national laws can apply to it. You can apply like discrimination laws, like I work with. So if your hotel has or travelers from other states, you have to follow normal laws. If you're close to a highway, you're likely to have that, so you're going to have to follow national law. And goods and services flow from state to state quite easily. You don't get stopped at each thing. You don't get taxed on each thing. Where the provinces were very much divided. They kind of siloed up. Even though you have less provinces than states, it was very much siloed and still very much is. And there's also a lot of grief between kind of central, or they call Western Canada here, and the East, where there's big population and where a lot of the political power lies. Now, why Venezuela matters to all this? Since Trump's tariffs, Canada has made a lot of progress. As Mark Carney has said, we can do more by uniting the country than Trump can hurt us with tariffs. And he's right. You get rid of those inter-province barriers and taxes and basically trade barriers within your own country. Yes, that balances out against the tariffs, and you can actually boost the Canadian economy more than the tariffs can hurt, than Trump can hurt them with the tariffs. Part of that, and part of the dispute up in Canada, is oil pipelines. Alberta has a lot of oil. Saskatchewan has some too, but most of it comes from Alberta. And they really have been, for a long time, they've wanted to build pipelines to export that oil to countries other than the United States. And that argument, when tariffs came up, has become a lot stronger. And Mark Carney, when he came in power, has actually cleared the way for an oil pipeline from Alberta to British Columbia to the coast. so that they can ship their heavy crude, that heavy sour crude that Venezuela and Canada have, to other countries. And of course, that is the only crude that the US can really refine, because we haven't built refineries since like the 60s, I think. So the US needs that crude either from Canada or Venezuela. Getting it from Venezuela means that Canada loses that bargaining chip against Trump that he doesn't like them having, right? And the other resource that becomes problematic and is interesting, Saskatchewan actually has a lot of it, is potash. 90% of the potash that the U.S. needs for its fertilizer to have its breadbasket in the Midwest, 90% of that potash comes from Saskatchewan. Where is the only other part of the world that could replace that size and need for potash? Russia. So does it surprise you? Under this, if you look through all of this, Trump is doing a lot of things to hurt Canada. And guess what? Canadians aren't stupid. They know. And Trump wants it so bad that he's willing to attack Venezuela and take over their oil fields so that Canada loses that bargaining chip. Now, is that really his rationale and reasoning? Maybe not. But it is an effect of it. And he really wants that war in Russia over so he can do business with Russia. What business does he want with Russia? Well, oil. But I don't know if they have the same oil that they need to refine here. But potash. He needs the potash for the fertilizer for the ag industry, and the ag industry and the farmers are such a big political part, especially for the Republicans. So that's one reason I don't want to talk about any of this while Brandon was up here or drag him into any of it. But there's a lot of moving parts. Part of it is travel. In the next month, I would not move. I would not be going to Mexico. If you already got a trip, man, that's a hard one. I wouldn't be going to Cuba. I would not be going, including on a cruise that ports here, to Honduras or Roatan, which is a great snorkeling and scuba location, by the way. You might have to go to Belize for that for now. They got great snorkeling and scuba too, to stay with the theme of the night of scuba and such. Okay. So I think, and you guys have watched me over the years, I'm usually one that says, I know I hear of these security alerts, blah, 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 blah. But I think this Mexico is relatively safe, where maybe more people are more concerned. I am flipping my opinion. And it's not because of what Mexico's doing, it's because of what the US is doing. It is going to, I don't know. It could, if he doesn't do any more, and somehow things in Venezuela work out. In 2 months, I could be switching my opinion and saying, hey, that was a great idea. I reserve the right to do that. There's a lot of ifs along that route. If they can actually keep boots off the ground and get the get those cartels, I don't think they're called cartels there, but you get my point. Get the cartels out of power and get democracy in Venezuela, and the people can still eat and aren't having to flee the country. That is the best case scenario, and I'm absolutely cheering for it. Is that what's going to happen? I don't know. I fear that there is a lot of things that I don't even think the U.S. government really can control all of the moving parts. They're okay. I'm going to stop. I'm going to go to chat. Yeah, if you know me, you knew I was going to get off on a tangent and go really in depth here. Okay. Floss is saying that's why Trump has taken it all over oil. So I didn't tell Floss anything new. And the weird thing is, it came up so quickly in the news when it wasn't, we took Maduro, there was an indictment, we got in, we got out, nobody died. It was, and we're going to build up oil and we now own that oil, right? That was almost immediate. So I don't know that they're actually trying to hide it. And if they're trying to hide it, they're not doing a very good job. Kobe's playing the fifth for something. Kobe says, let's just say I've already gotten into some arguments with people about politics, policies, and life in general. That doesn't surprise me. I do the same thing. Learn the honest thoughts and aren't welcome and are pretty useless in this country. That's all I'll say. Well, you know what? I've gotten to the point. I know when I talk about this stuff, some people will turn away from the channel. But the people that I want to surround myself with won't. So I've kind of come around to the point where I don't want to do it all the time. But when stuff like we can talk about it in an educated in a way that isn't necessarily one sided. Because I really I am worried about the people of Venezuela. I'm hopeful. Uh, I don't think it's going to turn out like Trump thinks it's going to, but who knows? I can hope that it will. I hope that the people will get their country back. I hope, and here's the crazy thing, in order for that to happen, they need to own their own resources and their oil. You can't just go in and take all of the oil and think the country is going to remain stable. If anything, you can have businesses go in and partner with the company where there's a profit split or revenue split, right? We're going to rebuild your infrastructure. In exchange, we get 10% of revenue, whatever it is, some sort of return. There's math and numbers that I won't get that nerdy on how that would work. But to go in and say this oil is now ours and we own this whole oil, the UN, the international laws do not work that way. I'm not an expert, I admit. I can't have those opinions, I don't think. But uh, my original plan over the last 3 years was to spend next month in Baja. That's not happening. I don't blame you. I would stay away from Baja as well. Although there's some seems like Baja might not be doing as good as it used to. It's not quite as isolated from the drugs and the cartels and all of that. I don't know. That's all hearsay. But I hear more and more of it. Up until a year or two ago, I was like, no, I'd still go to Baja. If it weren't for all of this, I would still go to Baja. I would still go to Yucatan. Right in the next 2 months, and the problem is the next 2 months even going to be enough to know? I mean, we might see some signs, right? If it happens again in Honduras, if it happens again in Mexico, if they start moving, I mean, there were signs this was going to happen. They moved far too many ships and military resources down there than they needed for anything but this. So, yes, it's a surprise, but it shouldn't be a surprise, especially when Trump opens his mouth so much about, oh, it's a really interesting time to be near Venezuela. What, a few days or weeks before they've got this big thing planned. He's not the brightest in that regard either. But uh, Ringo said, or Kyle says, head back to Michigan, Kobe. Plenty of time to shovel snow and cold. Oh, somebody can't hear you, Kyle. Hey, George Rose, how's it going? Yes, and Floss, that would be the interesting thing. So this gets away from Venezuela, but the argument he makes. So Trump has two default excuses for everything he does. National defense, which is so loosely defined within the United States, they're going to have to button that up. You cannot run around calling everything a national defense. You know, I used to joke about it with the wood lumber industry. What, we can't build enough catapults and trebuchets, right? So they do these national defense analyses that's like, come on, to justify tariffs and justify a lot of things. So his first excuse is always national defense, because national defense, the courts have always held that the president pretty much gets whatever leeway that they want. The tariffs is the first time you've ever seen the courts actually kind of push back and be like, no, wait a minute, right? So we already know he's pushing it, because normally that's never even been a question. The courts just go along with the president. And the second is drugs. But he's also used that excuse so loosey-goosey where it doesn't add up that everybody sees through it. So then he reverts back to the national defense. So when we talk about Greenland, we talk about Canada. Now with Canada, he uses the drug argument to justify tariffs, which we all know is hogwash. We all know it's a negotiating tool and blah 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 blah. But as far as Greenland, there's Greenland. These countries aren't as big as they are. They're just at the top of the world, or that they look. They're just at the top of the world. Although Canada is giant. But the argument here is national defense, and even though they say global warming isn't happening, and they'll argue that to their death, when you lose all of this ice, you open up all of these waterways, and Russia's already rushed for it. So the argument with Greenland and Canada, why they need to be part of the U.S., why his justification to take them by force, if he was to go that route, would be national defense. We need to be up in the Arctic. We need access to these lanes. Canada can't defend itself. Greenland can't defend itself. That's the argument. I'm not saying I agree with it. That is the argument. He might actually get away with it. I personally don't think he will try to attack either country or take over either country by force. I think he would rather make the economy so bad that the people want to join America, which I don't think will actually happen like he thinks. But I think that's where his brain is. But that's Greenland and Canada. Part of Canada's story is those Arctic routes, and well, if we had a globe, you could see where Russia goes across and all of that, right? And he wants to control that, and part of his negotiations with Canada is they've got to defend it better. Okay. All right. So that's responding to Floss's Greenland comment. Sorry, I got off on another tangent. George Ann Rose says Trump was not going for oil in Venezuela. I don't. I I think the verdict will come. I don't think it's out. I suspect he did it for the oil. I don't think he's hiding it. But again, you know what? I look. I'm not an expert in Venezuela. But in 2 days, I know where the oil is. I know where the mountains are. I know what their military is like, and blah 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 blah. If I can figure out that this isn't a bright idea to go for this oil basin in here and try to actually occupy Venezuela for the oil, it's a terrible idea. It's going to piss off a lot of Americans. I don't know. Paula says also increasing capacity at the port at Hudson Bay. So she's going back, I believe, with the pipeline argument. Hudson Bay is, I need to get better at my Canadian. Where's Hudson Bay? Well, this is Hudson Bay. I don't know what port. I think there's a specific port that runs oil. But anyways, oh, not oil. Sorry, just the port in general. If I remember right, what she's referring to, they want to make that port bigger for exports, right? So that you can build infrastructure out here and build things, and you have a way to get it out of the country to places other than the United States because the U.S. is now an unreliable trade partner. Claus says they tore down the big oil refinery in Illinois near where I live. My grandfather and mom worked there at one time. That's interesting because I don't think they have plans to build a lot more. Okay, so this is a great point. I meant to say this early on, but I got so many thoughts in my head. So fascinating thing. When Paula and I were talking about where we were going to go with this giant trip, because I told her at the time I was working for this other guy, and he was going to give me a sabbatical. He was going to pay us money to travel and give me 2 weeks off. That's what started this whole trip, right? Now, obviously, I don't work for him anymore, so now we're just doing it. But we were doing it because we had the plans in place and we paid for some of it, and so we're doing it. We're not going to stop living life because of it. But when I said dream big, Paul, we don't have to just think of Cozumel or Mexico. We can think of places that we wouldn't normally do, and I think we should because I don't think we'll get a chance to do it in the next 5 years. She was looking at Fiji. Well, she was looking at other places too. One of the places I was looking at was Aruba. I don't know how you say this, Curacao, and this island, right? And so I'd actually done a lot of research on how much that would cost if I could use points. Guess where that is? Right above Venezuela. You've got a lot of tourists right now up in these islands that can't get back home, from what I'm hearing. What was the one for sure? I think it was St. Lucia. But there's a lot of travelers stuck down there right now because they've got holds on the air traffic and what. Now, that was when I was reading about that and hearing about that. That was yesterday. So they were getting Maduro out. I don't know if those are still there, but you've got a lot of travel interruptions in this area. If I can only imagine, and Paula and I have kind of like, I don't know, we joked, laughed, cried, that we did not choose to go to Aruba for this trip because I don't know how we would do it. It's right there. You'd have those American ships launching the missiles right off the coast of your resort. So yeah, Fiji sounds pretty damn good right now. I think we I think we lucked out and did it right. Kobe says only a couple more hours to midnight. What's the next tangent? Well, let me see. I made sure we got through everything with Brandon. Although some of my questions were about Houston, so that didn't work out so well. Sorry, Brandon. I keep forgetting you're in Tennessee now. Um, but okay, so we talked about the travel. Uh, that's going to be a personal decision for everybody. But gosh, all of a sudden overnight travel and anywhere in the Caribbean, I don't know. I don't know. The rationale was it the indictment of it's kind of funny when you look at the rationale about the indictment, drug charges and whatnot, and then they say and because he had a machine gun and he conspired to have a machine gun or something like that. I was like, does that really matter at this point? Don't the other charges matter more? But I know they're trying to throw everything at him and keep him in jail as long as they can. I get that. I'm sure he'll be in jail forever. We talked about the oil and the business, and we talked about the effects on Canada. We talked about Noriega, the similarities. So when I first heard about it, I thought I don't think they can do that. But then there's that precedent with Noriega in Panama where Bush did it. Now, if you look at that justification, you're not talking about oil. And this one, I buy the justification more. Where's Panama Canal? This Panama Canal, wherever the Panama Canal is. I think that's it, but I'm not sure. Back then, it was more concerned about the Panama Canal. They went after him for the drugs, and they had an indictment. They went after him for the drugs and the money laundering, I believe, was part of it. But part of the concern was they weren't sure that him in power down there, they didn't know what he was going to do with the Panama Canal. So it always goes back to the economics and business, right? Who's set to lose a lot of money? Which big donor needs that route open? Now, Panama Canal, I would buy that argument of we need to keep that canal open, even though it is Panama's rights now, and I believe they owned it. Even though, remember, the U.S. built it or paid for it. I don't remember exactly how all that works, but the U.S. was involved, but it has been turned over to Panama, so they own it now. They control it now. It's not like the old days where we built it and there was more of an argument for that. So that's not the strongest argument anymore. But it's still a far better argument than the oil in Venezuela that you've got to go well deep into the country to get that Orinoco oil field and try to defend the pipelines all the way up. When, guess what? You had one of your best historic allies that is willing to give you oil as long as you quit jerking them around. But yeah, the Panama Canal, I buy a lot more. The Panama Canal is very significant to the U.S. economy. If they close the Panama Canal or something happened to the Panama Canal, I don't know. Would that be a bigger disruption to the economy than COVID? Maybe. Maybe I wouldn't go that far. If the U.S. is so somebody's gonna hate me for saying this again. When Trump does it, it's okay. When somebody else does it, Trump will say it's not. So the same rules don't apply, right? So he can go into Venezuela, but if another country were to do it to the U.S., now unlikely, but somewhere else, say our ally, then that would not be okay. I guarantee it. The other example that I know was Canada and India. Those countries have a spat because India allegedly went into Canada and killed a Sikh guy that the Indian government didn't like his YouTube channel or something, and what he stood for, and he had escaped India, went to Canada. Allegedly, India went in and killed him on Canadian soil, right? So it's kind of like Osama bin Laden. It does happen. It's not supposed to under international law. And what does everybody say? India, I didn't do it. I didn't do it. So I don't know. You've got a good point there. Let's take the map down because I'm gonna close this down soon. Van life is sounding better every day and being off grid. Yeah. Yep. Everybody's agreeing with that. That's probably the best point of the night. Maybe it's time to go back off grid. Kobe's all proud of himself. Determined floss T minus 2 out. Oh, Jesus. Sorry. All right. On that note, I've been on here for 2 hours. Again, thank you to Brandon. I know there's only a few of you left, but thank you to Brandon for coming up tonight. Exciting stuff that he's doing. It's interesting. I kind of somewhat intentionally didn't ask too much. I knew something about scuba and a new business and search and rescue type stuff, but sometimes I don't ask too many questions of guests. Because I kind of like asking the questions and when something hits my mind. So I didn't know that he's just now getting certified and then starting the business, and he's got very big plans. That's just at the very beginning. So that'll be interesting to watch. I'm sure it's going to be a multi-year thing before he's got all the cool equipment and the stories, and who knows how long it'll take before he finds a person that could have died, that type of stuff. We will absolutely celebrate it when it does happen. Um, Kobe. Okay, real quick. That's actually a good question. Is this going to affect? So here's okay. Let's share screen again. You actually got me, but I'll give you credit. That's actually a good point. So is it going to affect oil prices now? So we say oil or Venezuela's got the biggest confirmed oil fields in the world, right? Confirmed. There could be bigger ones, but that they know of and that they can prove, and that they know the oil is there. They just got to get it out of the ground. Venezuela has it. Why would that not affect oil prices? Now, oil prices have been pretty stagnant for a long time, hovering right around 60, 65. If you're talking about just, if I go to Yahoo, watch this, and we can check one thing to see if this is impacting anything. You look at the USD, so the S&P futures and all the futures markets actually start at 5 o'clock on Sunday, so it's always interesting to look at them right before I go live. But you can see now the futures, they're very volatile. They're an indicator, but they're not completely reliable. But you can see the markets. The markets aren't open, but you can trade options and such. That then there's math to it that kind of they can calculate what the opening value of these different indexes are going to be. So using all of that, you can see right here. These are the futures. These are basically trading that has happened late tonight since 5 o'clock, and you can see these aren't big movements going on in the American markets. Now, the VIX is just a risk indicator. Don't pay any attention to that if you don't know what it is. Europe, pretty steady, not big, not that's a pretty big change there. Asian markets are probably actually open, and you're actually seeing the Nikkei. The Nikkei, which one is the Nikkei? I'm not that familiar with these markets, but 2.5% is a giant 1 day leap, and it looks like it's still early in the day there. Let me just see real quick what country that is. I want to say Japan, but yeah, Japan. So Japan, the Japanese market, one of these is probably Korean, one of these I think is China, and the other is Japan. So the Japan index, I don't know why, but they are having a great start to the week. 0.27 isn't a huge change. 0.5, that's not bad, but 2.5 in that time frame is very good. And now let's go look at one more thing. I don't care about those commodities. Here's to answer your question, Kobe. Is it going to have an effect on? And I'll tell you why in a second. But I wanted to check before I open my mouth. Oil prices are not moving. That's very little movement in oil prices in Brent crude or normal crude oil. And here's why. Okay, so to answer your question, how cheap will fuel become? I don't think. Well, it depends if you're asking short term or long term. Short term, this isn't going to have an impact on oil prices. Oil, Venezuela, while they've got the biggest oil reserve that's confirmed and that people know and can prove that is there, and that you just got to get it out of the ground. They're less than 1% of, because the infrastructure has deteriorated under Chavez and Maduro. They're less than 1% of the oil markets, and you think about the embargoes, or not the embargoes, but the sanctions, and then the blockade. The fact that oil hasn't been coming out of Venezuela has already been built into the markets, right? Because they've been blockaded. They've stolen, not, I shouldn't say stolen, they've taken those shadow fleets that they've captured. So oil, I gotta be careful. Chevron has been able to move oil out of Venezuela, but they are the only company that has any rights to move oil out of Venezuela. And that's why there was one other thing I wanted to check. I don't know. Let's go back here. Let's look at what Chevron's doing. I don't know if this is actually going to update. This isn't updated, so I don't know that they're actually able to trade that till morning. If you want to know what the impact is going to do for the market or say oil companies, watch Chevron tomorrow, ticker CVX. Now, actually, no. Wait. Oh, this is good. This is good. 1 second. Okay, go back to this. Right here. This is overnight. They are trading it. It has moved 10%. 10%. That's the one I wanted to watch for tomorrow. And this is not the market's not open. So again, this is like options and such, or you have to have specific rights and you pay for those rights to trade overnight once those options open. So this will probably move more tomorrow. Now, nobody go buy this in the morning because I say stuff where maybe I shouldn't. I'm not licensed in any of this. I can't give stock advice. But for the interest of Venezuela and what impact it's going to have on oil, to answer Kobe's question, watch Chevron tomorrow. Watch Chevron, ticker CVX. It has already, since the futures market opened at 5, so in about 3 hours, it says 9 there, but 3 hours basically since it opened, it has already moved over 10%. 10% is a giant jump. Don't let me. That's huge. That is huge, and I gotta be careful. I would speculate that's probably going to move up more tomorrow once the market's open and more people have access to trading that. Although, again, those futures are unreliable because you can have somebody with big, one person make a big difference in it, and it's a smaller market because you don't have as many people trading. So the early indicator is that Chevron is going, follow the money, people. Is it about the oil? Because businessmen, the oil companies wanted access to Venezuelan oil, and people are piling in. I was actually looking at that earlier and thinking, man, that's I got to be careful. But I would not be. I'll say it this way: I would not be surprised if Chevron goes up to 200 soon. So 172 now. It was at 150 or something for a long time. So watch that this week. If you're curious, please do not invest because I talk about something like that. But the reason that's so fascinating is Chevron is the one company, the one oil company that has the right. Venezuela cannot export it because of the blockade. No other companies, U.S. companies and such, can get to Venezuelan oil before all of this because of sanctions. Chevron has like an exemption to that. They said, "Oh, please, we're a donor, or this or that." I don't know. I haven't confirmed any of that. They have operations. Chevron is the one U.S. company that has operations in Venezuela. They are the ones that are probably positioned to gain the most from this. So watch Chevron. Now, that's not to say that BP, Exxon, some of those other giant international ones, if Trump says that they're going to go in and they're going to have boots on the ground and they're going to provide security for that oil or Orinoco oil basin, you bet your butt BP and Exxon, they would pile in too. They'd say, yeah, we'll rebuild the infrastructure. We want access to that oil. You provide the security. Who provides the security? The U.S. taxpayer. And then all the profits goes to those guys. So I don't know. Follow the money as this all evolves. Watch Chevron over this next week. You might actually see a bump. I wouldn't be surprised if you see a bump to some of those others. Now, I'm going to go back to this again. Dang it, Kobe, you asked too good of a question. I hate you now. Let's go back to crude oil. Now, it's under 60 right now, right? If we look at the history, let's go 5 years. 5 years. It has 60 is a pretty, if you go all the way back, 60 is a pretty middle of the road cost, right? So you're kind of right in the middle of the graph. If you go back, let's say 1 year, it's been over 70, but for a long time, even with the war in Russia, where you would think oil, especially as they have more and more sanctions, you would have thought that would have driven up oil prices. However, there's oil oversupply right now. So in the world, all the OPEC nations and whatnot, even with Russia and Venezuela, it's not going to move oil prices a lot right now because of the supply that's already out there. You've also now got Now that blockade's in there, they've actually had to stop pumping the oil, I think, in Venezuela because they've filled all their storage. So not only do you have on the international stage through OPEC and what's actually flowing to markets, you've also got a lot of oil sitting that can't be moved in Venezuela that eventually will. Yeah, you better bet your butt Trump's going to try to get it out of there and sell it just like he took the oil tankers, right? So they're going to take that oil and they're going to put that on the market. So the oil companies in the long run, if they get access to that oil, especially if they do it and they don't have to pay for the security of actually, securing all the pipelines and the pumps and all of that, they're going to make out great. If, if, right? These are all speculations. But in the short run, it's not going to have any impact on oil prices trading on these markets. It's not going to, if anything, I said it last week. I think 2026 is going to be a road trip year. This actually makes that a stronger case that it's going to be a road trip year because why would you want to go? Like I said, I'm not going to go. I would always go to Mexico. I'm not going to go to Mexico. I'm not going. People aren't going to want to go to Cuba. They're not going to want to go to Roatan. They're not going to want to go to Aruba. Right now, everybody's going to be kind of freaked out because nobody knows what's going to happen when. So it's just making it more and more of a road trip year. Gas prices, I honestly, I don't think gas prices are going to go above 70 for a while. And keep in mind, rebuilding that infrastructure, you could say you go in and you take over Venezuela tomorrow and you've got control over it. It's not going to happen, but for hypothetically. And you turn on their pumps and say the US is like, yeah, we're going to start taking all this oil. Well, the infrastructure, even when they were pumping it and doing it, it's less than 1% of the oil or 1% of, I think it was 0.8% of the world's supply right now when Venezuela was able to get oil out. So even if you go in, you take over Venezuela, you can't access all that oil in that Orinoco oil fields without a lot of infrastructure upgrades, and that takes time. If you're in Canada, that gives you time to build a pipeline to BC. Because the two would take, I would guess, about the same time for them to build up that infrastructure and start getting real quantities of oil out of Venezuela right around the same time you could get a pipeline built. Although pipelines are hard to build. Those take a lot of planning, a lot of political, especially when you got indigenous native tribes and such that you're working with and you need to work with, and Canada works with them much better than America does. So, all right. Kobe's laughing. He's excited. What'd Paula say? Oh, did Paula's comment get you your question? Everybody's laughing. I love it. I love it. You know what? That was a great question. I'm okay with it. Will this create jobs down there? Short term or long term? Because I think in the short term, all hell's gonna break loose. People don't even want to be out in the streets and stores are going to be empty. People are just going to be surviving. If you are going to secure that whole area, which I don't know. I'm not an expert in that, but just looking at the maps, it looks like it would be more than Americans would be comfortable. They're not even comfortable putting boots on the ground places, right? You could have justified it in Ukraine a lot easier than Venezuela, and they still didn't do it. Um, of course, and they're scared of nukes, where I think people are a little less scared of Venezuela. They just don't have certain things that Americans are scared of. So there's that. But to create the jobs, you got to you have to rebuild that infrastructure. Now you would create some jobs if you are going to rebuild that infrastructure. How many of those would be actual Venezuelan jobs? Probably a fair amount. But you would still have, if it's American companies running it, you would still have the big wigs that are making the biggest money going down, making the big bucks, and then it'd be the local people that they would get jobs. They are jobs nonetheless. But here's the thing: once all of that is built, if America owns that oil and is the one that profits, or the oil company profits from that oil, the Venezuelan people don't profit from that. What does that do for them? If you now say your oil's not your oil, guess what that probably does? If we can't rely on our oil, then do we go back to the drug trafficking, right? So I don't know. There are so many question marks on this, Kyle. You would hope. And what I like about this question, though, is it tells me Kyle is thinking about the Venezuelan people. That's who it should be about. And again, I will hope for it. I'm skeptical based on what's being put out there that the best interests of the Venezuelan people are really what this is all about. But can we be hopeful that in the next 5 years, hopefully sooner, that maybe they get a representative democracy that's reliable and people aren't thinking that it's fake elections and such, and maybe it's stronger for the economy and people are better off. Because let's be honest, the people down there are struggling. That economy has been shit. So it would not take much to be better. But that's a great unknown. But you might be right. Seriously though, I'd like gas to be under $2 a gallon again. With my discounts, I've gotten it for that couple times. $2 a gallon is great. I am personally voting or rooting for lower gas prices because I will probably be going on the road, not like full time, but for business and try to meet with potential, clients and such. Uh, Brandon says, I do plan on expanding the business as well if I can. This is another goal of mine. You already have pretty big plans there, Brandon. Was like all 48 states. At least you didn't say you're going to Alaska. That'd be cool. Paula, I love it when Nate pulls up pictures and websites so we can see what the hell he is talking about. You missed the word there. Leave the truck and bum a ride, no gas expense. Very helpful because otherwise I honestly probably wouldn't understand as much personally. Yeah, especially the map. The map is important, and when I start talking about um markets and such, I've got to share the screen with Yahoo. Yahoo is a great Yahoo is free. Um they don't play the same games as some of the other news websites that will only pull up an article once a month or something. They do have some that will say premium, like this one I can't open up. A lot of the Financial Times ones you can't open up unless you subscribe, and that's okay. But they don't play the same games as a lot of the others. A lot of these aren't as politically biased, and you get a lot of free market access that I mean, I can access it in other ways. Actually, I like Yahoo's Yahoo Finance is why Yahoo is still around. Without their finance, they are one of the best. They still use it in universities and all of that. So yeah. Chevron seems to be the most expensive company around me here in Arizona, like 40 to 50 cents more per gallon. It's crazy. Yeah. So Chevron, because they put additive, what is it? Chevron with Techron, right? So Chevron with Techron, they put more stuff in their gas, which is supposed to be better for your car. I don't know. I'm not a mechanic. My grandpa who liked cars, uh, my mom always used Chevron. I never realized at the time it was more expensive. We weren't that well off, but we use Chevron, and they've always got clean gas or clean restrooms, right? But yes, they are more expensive. And the other one is it Shell with Pro something? There's two of them that because they put more additives are more. Now, where you'll see, so I think Chevron is a Houston-based company, and of course they're the only ones in Venezuela, which I've already said. But you will see that they're big in California. That's why I grew up in California, especially. And if you go, let's share the screen again here, guys. So why one of the reasons I think that they can get away with that is if you go into a market, if you have additives and you've got more expensive fuels, you will do better in markets that where gas is higher, right? So in California, let's say gas is $5 a gallon. Now you add an additive that's what, 25 cents more, 40 cents more. Well, if you're a consumer and you're like, well, it's $5 over here, but it's 5.30 over here, it doesn't sound as big of a difference. But if you're in Texas, where say it's 250 versus 280, it just feels like more. And a lot of the gas, of course, a lot of the cost with California gas is taxes, right? So they could always change that. But actually, so when we talk about Chevron, let me get my wits about me here. Where am I looking? Joshua Tree right here. So when so if you've ever known, that's one of the places I've stayed out there. There's another place over, I don't know what this one is. That's Joshua Tree. But anyways, over here, where's it at? Oh goodness, I'm all sorts of mixed up now. Bakersfield. So when Dallas had her surgery, so I stayed at Nat or Joshua Tree um around Christmas time, and then early that year there was a vet up in Bakersfield. So Dallas went to Bakersfield for the vet, and then we stayed when we were kind of stuck in that storm. We were right in here, somewhere in here where there's one dirt road that got flooded out and blah blah blah. I was stuck in between these two highways, and it was like an hour drive to get to either one. That's where I was kind of stranded. Is in that general area, beautiful area, um, but right in here before these mountains, west of Bakersfield, there are a ton of Chevron pump jacks and whatnot, and there's a huge Chevron. They get a lot of, I don't know what the oil basin is there, but there's a lot of Chevron activity, and they've got a huge stuff there, and they're very big in California, which makes sense to me because yeah, like I explained, gas price when you're in a when you have a premium fuel like that, it's less of an effect if you're used to paying high gas prices. Can I pull up a map of oh boy. Give me a second on that, Kyle. Let me think. If you want to have another live with me on it, I will be willing to again to talk about my goal to expand my business. You know what, Brandon? I'm more than happy removed me instead of the map. Uh get built up. Maybe we'll give it some time. We're not going to do it in a month, say, right? But 6 months at the earliest, maybe a year to check in to see where you're at. Those are always kind of fun. Like I don't do repeats a whole lot, but Carter, we did that with Carter. I think it was 2 years later. I've always thought about asking what are their names? Joe and Emily. I could always they were the fascinating ones that basically toured that. They actually are down here in San Diego. Oh, you guys can't see that map though. That's where they're based out of. But they've actually built their RV. I haven't actually been watching a lot of theirs. I need to catch up on them personally. But they were fun guests. I'd have them back up. But yeah, we'd do it again. But get built up, get your certification, do some searches, get some collaborations, and then maybe next fall or something. It would I've got to figure out with my business as well, how much time I can dedicate to this channel, right? I want to keep doing the Sundays, but guests take a little bit more time, not a whole lot. But I'm going to be spending a lot of work, especially next summer. So if I was to get clients this year, which who knows, summer would be a very busy time. But bought us an extra 10 plus minutes. I know you guys are having so much fun with that. You guys have as much fun with that as when I'm an hour behind in chat. I know you are. You know what? I'll give it to you. That was a good question. Oh boy. I don't know about the big greatest accomplishment of your life. Floss says we were at 255 for regular today. Well, guess what? I think we're at 130, Floss. 130. But it's per liter. So it's actually more expensive. Our gas prices in Canada are almost, I think when you do the calculations, almost as bad as California. But Canada seems to care about the environment and all that, kind of like California. But that is actually one thing Mark Carney did is they got away. When he came into office and replaced Trudeau, he got rid of one of the gas taxes. It went from about $1.50 to $1.30 per liter. Liter to gallon is 3.75. So you're talking not quite $1 difference per gallon, but more than 75 cents ish, 80 cents ish per gallon when he took away those taxes. One of those things he did to kind of make the conservatives that were gaining a lot of power when Trudeau was in, and they all thought they were going to win. One of those things that he did to kind of appease them, if you will. 240. You're in Michigan. Floss said what? Now I lost it. Okay, I've been on here way too long, guys. Oh, that is awesome, Kyle. That is awesome. You know what? Okay. Gosh, I get myself distracted now. I think it's within reaching distance, though. So I do have a box of all those things that you get on the road of other channels and whatnot. Oh, wait. I don't want to show this on camera, though, because it has addresses. But this is the original envelope from when Paula sent me a sticker, and it got thrown in the box. And so now I got a laminator, so I laminated it. And here, laminated are my vowels, all sorts of chicken scratch and what on it. Anyways, so your comment made me think of that. Yeah, I still got that first envelope from Paula before I ever met her. But hey, Daryl in the house. Happy New Year's, Nate and Paula. Happy New Year's to you, Daryl and Caden. Am I getting that name right? I suck with names. I'm sorry if I got it wrong. He's gonna ignore what question? The problem is now I know what you're doing. You know, I was just thinking, when will you? I don't know. I I haven't even made a logo. When I was making the change, I had all these big ideas, and it's gonna. And if I remember right, it's gonna have a palm tree and maybe a money sign in it. I don't even have a logo for the channel yet. I still don't. I haven't replaced the picture because I had to take the picture down because technically it was my old boss's picture from work, but it was a good picture. Caden, there we go, got it right. All right, guys, I'm gonna shut this thing down. Thank you for hanging out with me for way too long while I ramble. It was fun with Brandon though. Getting to meet Brandon. I always love meeting new people, especially when they have something that they're excited about and they're building and all of that. So he gets to share that out, and when he gets, of course, when he gets his YouTube channel going, then we can all kind of watch what he's doing. But there is I'm sure I don't know how much he's played around with it, but there's a bit to a learning curve with YouTube if you're getting involved in a business to then worry too much about the YouTube side, unless that is a critical part of the business. For me, I do it with my business because I know how to do it and I'm used to it through this. But if it wasn't for doing it for all these years, I probably wouldn't focus on it at all. I might not even have a YouTube channel for my business, just because it doesn't drive a lot of bankers don't get their training off of YouTube. They house a lot of videos on YouTube, but they don't really go look for it there. So, all right, guys, I'm gonna shut this thing down. Happy New Year's, everybody. I believe we'll be on next week. I think so. We don't have any plans. Who knows what I'll talk about? Or did I just talk about everything we could ever talk about, and there's nothing left? All right. Everybody have a wonderful week. Keep an eye on Chevron. Bye.